Chapter 367. Lu Aotian did not know what to do. He wanted to comfort her but he did not know how. "Fairy, may I ask if your father is human ancestor Shenong?" Lu Aotian bowed and asked. "N. My father is Shenong, I am Shenong Qin Yen. Where is this place? Is there a great emperor in this star field? I want to meet him." The girl asked faintly. Lu Aotian broke out in cold sweat. Great emperor? And this star field? Did she think that great emperors were everywhere? "My apologies, I am the strongest person in this star field and also the emperor of the Lu Lan dynasty. If you need anything, just let me know and I will do my best to help." Lu Aotian bowed and said. "You? So weak and you are the strongest person in this star field? Is there no one else in the nearby star field?" Shenong Qin Yen was surprised, although she did not mean to look down on him. Her words made Lu Aotian smile bitterly. Lu Aotian was speechless. In terms of battle strength, Lu Aotian was confident that he was invincible in the same realm. In the entire universe, there were less than 5 people who could suppress him at the initial stage of divine martial. At most, only Yi Qinghan could kill him. Other than him, he did not put anyone else in his eyes. Lu Aotian scratched his head and smiled bitterly. Fairy might not know, but the current era is no longer the savage era. The era is changing and so is the heavenly Tao. With my battle strength, I am definitely one of the strongest in the endless universe. Shenong Qin Yen curled her lips. This little girl was pure and did not have any intention to hide. She expressed her disdain towards Lu Aotian's battle strength. "Little brother, is there any inheritance from the savage era among the current strongest forces?" Shenong Qin Yen asked. "Lu Aotian, I am Lu Aotian, Fairy can just call me Aotian." Lu Aotian wiped away his cold sweat and said helplessly. "Okay, little brother Lu, answer my question." Shenong Qin Yen looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. Calling Lu Aotian like that was a little weird. Lu Aotian completely gave up on correcting her, and with Shenong Qin Yan's true identity, it was not too much to call him whatever she wanted. "From what I know, the Emperor region's Dao realm Holy Land, Zhan clan, came from the savage era, but 2 years ago, they were destroyed while resisting the undead. Zhan bloodline only left with 1 or 2 people." Lu Aotian replied. "Zhan clan? Exterminated?" Shino was astonished. The Zhan clan was extremely powerful, yet they were still exterminated. "Yes, they are considered extinct. There is also the ancient massacre god, who also came from the desolate era. He was also destroyed in the battle 2 years ago. Now, there is only one monarch-level expert and a few young prodigies left. However, their foundation was not destroyed and they were protected." Lu Aotian told everything he knew. He didn't know anything else. Ancient killing god. "Now, bring me to that emperor rank. I want to see the history of mankind and find out more about Lord Father," Shenong Qin Yen immediately said. Lu Aotian was speechless. Looking at her expectant eyes, he didn't refuse in the end. He nodded and said, "Give me 1 day to make arrangements. We will depart the day after tomorrow." In the primeval purgatory, Qi Bingfei had been conned until her face was covered in dirt. However, she had obtained quite a few treasures, so she didn't bicker with the parrot. But the deeper she went, the greater the danger became. Even though the parrot's ability to sense danger had reached a heaven-defying degree, it was still too much for her to handle. The aura of death enveloped her as she approached hell step by step. Qi Bingfei had no choice but to give up, not daring to go any deeper. "There are good treasures inside. There is an 8th grade ancient medicine in front. Are you sure you don't want to go in?" The divine bird's face was unwilling. Along the way, they had obtained half of the treasures, and it had obtained quite a lot. It was obviously unwilling to leave now, but without Qi Bingfei's protection, it didn't have the guts to do so. "I don't want to die. Let's stop here. I believe that you are a divine bird. Qi Bingfei was completely convinced. This bird was simply a god. It could tell where the treasures were and where the dangers were with just a glance. Otherwise, with her strength, she wouldn't have been able to enter the central region. "AI," said the parrot, shaking its head and sighing. If Master wasn't injured, then his cultivation base would definitely have improved by leaps and bounds. It continued, "Unfortunately, it's no use. As far as I know, nobody who gets thrown in here ever gets out." Qi Bingfei quickly left the primeval purgatory. Once she arrived at the periphery, hundreds of young experts had gathered. They seemed to be discussing something. When they saw Qi Bingfei, they immediately waved at her. "Fairy Bingfei, the human race and heavenly demon races experts are joining hands to hold a Dao discussion banquet. They have invited all the elites in the world. Are you interested in joining?" A young man smiled and said. "Brother Canghai, Dao discussion banquet. Who's hosting it?" Qi Bingfei asked curiously. "Xiao Canghai, one of the 4 great experts of the human race." However, one of the 4 great experts had already left. Xuechen was dead. It's jointly organized by the leaders of Heavenly Human Union and Heavenly Demon Union. As for the reward, I heard that it's very high. If you are appreciated by the 2 leaders, you will be taken in as a disciple. Another young expert walked out. He was called Hua Rudong, ranked 3rd among the young generation of the human race. He was at the initial level of the divine martial realm. "When is it? Where is it? Do I need an invitation?" Qi Bingfei asked curiously. "At the end of this month, there are still 10 days left. The location is at the Flying Afterglow Mountain. You need to go to the Heavenly Human Union to take the test. As for Fairy Bingfei, you don't need to take the test," Xiao Canghai said. "Tisk, tsk, tsk. Give my master an invitation too. This divine bird wants to see if the humans and demons in the primeval purgatory are strong." The parrot glanced at the experts and found that some of them were indeed terrifyingly strong. However, it was used to seeing geniuses, so it didn't feel any pressure. "What kind of bird is this? What is the primeval purgatory?" Xiao Canghai and Hua Rudong asked curiously. "This is a divine bird. You can call it a divine bird." Qi Bingfei's mouth twitched. She was completely convinced by the parrot now. She didn't dare to offend it, so she took the initiative to introduce it. "Divine bird." Everyone laughed in disdain. The parrot rolled its eyes and raised its eyebrows at Qi Bingfei. It said proudly, "How many treasures have this divine bird brought you to find?" Qi Bingfei didn't understand what the parrot wanted. She immediately said honestly, 1 8th grade ancient medicine, 17 7th grade ancient medicine, and 1 8th grade material. It's all I've accumulated for dozens of years. Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but look at the parrot again. "AI," the parrot murmured, pursing its lips. "That 8th tier ancient medicine is about to transform. It's only about 3,000 kilometers east of here, in that arched mountain range. Isn't that a bit dangerous? And yet you don't dare to go. Geez, what a coward." Although the parrot's voice wasn't very loud, it wasn't very clear. However, it was clear that the parrot was talking about an 8th tier ancient medicine, 3,000 kilometers east of there. Qi Bingfei frowned. She didn't know what the parrot wanted to do. She had never encountered such a terrain. Moreover, she didn't dare to enter the central region of the purgatory. "Ha ha ha, Fairy Bingfei, this little bird is cute. However, I should enter the battlefield to gain experience. I'll see you at the Feixia Mountain in 10 days. Xiao Canghai and the others exchanged glances and flew towards the central region. Hundreds of people rushed over in a grandiose manner, forming an alliance. "It's very dangerous here. Let's join hands and get 8th grade ancient medicine. We'll divide it according to our strength. What do you think?" 2 hours later, Xiao Canghai and the others arrived at the central region of the mountain range. There were towering mountains and vast forests. Birds flew high and didn't dare to circle at a low altitude. Obviously, there was some danger in there. Why didn't I see this mountain range before? Hua Rudong asked in surprise. Isn't there a cliff behind it? Who would want to fly here to have a look? Xiao Canghai shook his head and looked at the hundreds of young experts behind him. He said in a deep voice, "Are you willing to join hands? Brother Hua and I will divide the 8th grade ancient medicine equally. However, we will give you the same amount of spirit crystals as compensation. What do you think?" "No problem. Even if we divide the 8th grade ancient medicine equally, we should get 3,000 upper spirit crystals, right?" Everyone was happy and nodded. Everyone joined hands and carefully walked in with swords in hand. Gradually, they went deep into the mountain range. When they entered the valley, they suddenly felt that they were being stared at by countless pairs of eyes. Their hair stood on end. Buzz! 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 The strange cries of the insects covered the sky and covered the earth. It was pitch black and covered the sky. What's that? Retreat! It's a 5th grade poisonous bee swarm. Ah, pa, whoosh! Whoosh! Over 100 masters began to crazily cut down countless wasps with their sabers and swords. A massive number of wasps fell to the ground, but their attacks were extremely terrifying. Their fangs could pierce through true essence and armor, and a single bite would leave behind a dark bruise. Even the blood would turn black and miserable screams would constantly fill the air. "Get out! Get out! This is a poisonous beehive. Damn it, we were tricked by that bastard bird. Ouch!" Xiao Canghai screamed as he was surrounded by poisonous bees. Sword Qi shot out in all directions and killed countless poisonous bees. However, he was also bitten a dozen times. Although the poisonous bees were not fatal, their venom was very strong. The pain caused by the wounds was unbearable. Everyone was wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They quickly killed their way out of the valley. Their faces were black and purple, and they were bleeding profusely. Fuck! That bird must have said that on purpose. Fuck! This is the first time I was tricked by a bird. Hua Rudong said angrily. Everyone, along the way, the parrot whined. Those who go against this divine bird will never have a good ending, the parrot said arrogantly. Qi Bingfei was very curious. She asked, "Divine bird, where did you point them to? Is there really a top 8th grade ancient medicine?" "Ha ha ha, there is indeed." "Why don't you go and try?" the parrot laughed. "Look at your cheap smile. I know they were tricked by you. When they come back, they will definitely settle the score with you." Qi Bingfei reprimanded. "TSK, this divine bird is afraid of them. If they dare to look down on this divine bird again, I will send them to hell." The parrot said disdainfully. Qi Bingfei's mouth twitched. She couldn't help but be curious about Yi Qinghan. What kind of man could take this bastard bird as a spirit pet and not be tricked to death? When Qi Bingfei and the parrot returned to Butterfly Valley, it was already the next day. Yi Qinghan was sitting cross-legged on his bed. His face was pale, but he was much better than before. His body and soul had completely merged, and he could control it. Although he couldn't use it to fight, he could protect himself. Yi Qinghan got up and moved his body. His soul had recovered by 40% under the effect of the divine lotus seed and the snow god pill. He spread out his divine sense and found that Qi Bingfei had returned. He got up and walked out. Chapter 368. In Huanzhu's small residence, Qi Bingfei's 2 personal maids had been keeping watch on the bamboo bridge for the entire night. Yi Qinghan was finally not disturbed. His soul was slowly recovering and he now had some ability to protect himself. Yi Qinghan walked out of the residence and looked at the beautiful scenery. However, he was not in the mood to appreciate it. He only thought about how to leave this place and return to the imperial domain. Qi Bingfei quickly returned to the residence with the parrot. She looked at Yi Qinghan's lonely back and cupped her fists. "Mr. Yi, were you disturbed? Thank you for taking care of me. I can leave in a few days." Yi Qinghan nodded. "Mr. can rest assured and stay here. This is my private residence. Normally, other junior sisters cannot enter without my permission. They will not disturb Mr.'s rest." Qi Bingfei was somewhat reluctant to let Yi Qinghan leave. The parrot had shown her the path to riches. His harvest in one day and one night was more than what she had earned in decades. Naturally, she wanted to stay for a few more days. The parrot looked at Yi Qinghan and flew to his shoulder. "Master, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and said hoarsely, "Good news. The good news is that I know where we are." The parrot replied. "Oh." Yi Qinghan was pleasantly surprised. He quickly asked, "Where is this? How far is it from the imperial domain?" "This is the immemorial purgatory. It is very far from the imperial domain," the parrot said mysteriously. "Immemorial purgatory? What is this place? Is there such a place in the endless universe?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. "This is the bad news. The immemorial purgatory is a prison for traitors. It was set up by the human emperor and the great emperor in ancient times. You can enter, but you can't leave. In other words, we can't leave," the parrot said indifferently. Crack. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. His aura was somewhat cold as he said, "I also have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" The parrot didn't seem to be aware of the change in Yi Qinghan's aura. It spoke in a light voice, "Let's talk about the good news first. My soul has recovered by more than 40%, Yi Qinghan said in a cold voice. "Congratulations, master," the parrot said with a flattering grin. "Congratulations, master. My master can eat well anywhere. If he recovers his cultivation base, he'll definitely unify the world. The bad news is that I can teach you a lesson again." "Pa!" Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the parrot. With a slap, the parrot was smashed into the lake. "Ouch!" Plopped up, the parrot immediately fell into the water, flapping its wings in disarray. Its entire body was drenched in water, and it was battered and exhausted. "Ha ha ha!" Qi Bingfei was overjoyed. This lowly bird had toyed with her all the way here. She didn't expect to be taught a lesson as soon as she returned. She was in a good mood. Yi Qinghan looked at the parrot indifferently and scolded, "Come up and explain to me again. What do you mean by we can't return to the imperial domain?" The parrot felt wronged. It flew out of the lake and shook off the water on its body. It angrily said, "How can you blame this divine bird for this? This broken prison was set up by the great emperor and the human sovereign. Unless our cultivation base surpasses the combined strength of the human sovereign and the great emperor, we can't leave in this lifetime. Then how do you know this is the immemorial purgatory?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. "Of course it's because this divine bird's great father came here. Otherwise, how would I know this is the immemorial purgatory?" The parrot roared. "Your great father came in and went out. Doesn't this mean that we can leave the immemorial purgatory? Are you telling me that your great father's cultivation base surpasses the combined strength of the human sovereign and the great emperor?" Yi Qinghan mocked. The parrot's eyes flashed. It said doubtfully, "That's right. This broken place must have a life gate. Otherwise, how did my father leave? But why don't I have any inherited memories of this? Did my father hide it? Qi Bingfei, hand over that lowly bird. Hand over that lowly bird. This matter has nothing to do with the Butterfly Valley, outside the Butterfly Valley, a large group of young geniuses were roaring angrily. Every one of them was wearing ragged clothes. There were also a few young heavenly demons. Their cultivation bases weren't bad, but at this moment, they were battered and exhausted. Their jade-like faces were covered with large swollen bruises. Qi Bingfei frowned. She looked at the parrot and Yi Qinghan and smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan glanced at the parrot. He knew that it had caused trouble, and it wasn't a small one at that. Don't go out yet. Let me see if I can calm them down. Qi Bingfei helplessly turned and walked out of the Butterfly Valley. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and asked helplessly, "Divine bird, what did you do this time?" The parrot replied disdainfully, "This bunch of reckless rookies actually dared to mock this divine bird, so I lured them into a valley that was occupied by poisonous bees. I reckon that they were bitten half to death by a swarm of poisonous bees, so they wanted to settle the score with me. However, you can't blame this divine bird for this. I whispered to that little girl that there was an 8th-grade ancient medicine in a certain small valley, but I didn't let them in. It was their own greed. How can you blame this divine bird?" Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Outside the Butterfly Valley, tens of thousands of flowers were blooming. The flowers were red and green, and it was very beautiful. However, such a large group of beggar-like experts was really a killjoy. Qi Bingfei stepped out of the Butterfly Valley and saw the miserable state of these people. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. She was glad that she didn't offend this lowly bird. It was simply too terrifying. This group of people, including Xiao Canghai, couldn't even recognize their parents at this moment. Qi Bingfei knew it was them, but she pretended not to know. She asked curiously, "Who are you? This king has never seen you before. Butterfly Valley has no enmity with you. Why are you making trouble?" Many people's faces were swollen like steamed buns, and they couldn't speak clearly. Xiao Canghai and Hua Rudong were fine, but their appearances had changed greatly, so they could speak clearly. They stepped forward. "Bingfei, I am Xiao Canghai. Where is that lowly bird on your shoulder? Get it out. I want to skin it alive." Xiao Canghai roared. Qi Bingfei frowned and pretended to be surprised. She asked, "Brother Canghai? You are Brother Canghai. Who beat you up like this? Could it be the divine bird? It has been with me all this time. Is there any misunderstanding?" Everyone trembled in anger. They looked at Qi Bingfei as if they really didn't understand, but they didn't know how to explain. Hua Rudong was so angry that he was about to cry. People called him a handsome man, but now he had become a pig's head. Who could stand it? Qi Bingfei, this king is Hua Rudong. That lowly bird must have deliberately led us to a poisonous nest. You call it out. This has nothing to do with you. It is not implicated. Hua Rudong tried to suppress his emotions and said in a low voice. Qi Bingfei looked at Hua Rudong's miserable appearance and wanted to laugh. It was very difficult for her to endure. This was not a handsome man, but a pig-headed beggar. He was even worse. "Everyone, my Butterfly Valley is not a place where you can bully as and when you like. After you separated from me, you were fine. The divine bird and I returned to the Butterfly Valley directly. I can testify that the divine bird has nothing to do with you. Don't try to frame me." Qi Bingfei was gloating, but she did not dare to show it. She spoke with a straight face. However, so many people and heavenly demons had been humiliated. How could they bear it? If they didn't kill the parrot today, they wouldn't let it go. Qi Bingfei felt a little uncomfortable. It seemed like this group of people was really angry. It would be fine if it was just one person, but this group of people represented the majority of the top forces in the purgatory. Some of them were even heavenly demons from the heavenly demon tribe. It wouldn't be easy to fool them. Butterfly Valley didn't have the ability to deal with so many powerful forces. Yi Qinghan led the parrot out of Butterfly Valley, where he looked around at the crowd. His face was expressionless. The parrot was capable of killing even great emperors, so this was just a simple lesson. They should be glad that the parrot didn't want to kill them. Otherwise, how could they have come back alive? Everyone, I am the master of the divine bird. If there is something wrong with the divine bird, you can tell me. If it is really the divine bird's fault, I will give you an explanation. If not, please don't provoke this king, Yi Qinghan said coldly. Xuechen. It's Xuechen. Isn't he dead? Xiao Canghai was shocked and said in a hoarse voice. Everyone was also shocked. Xuechen was dead. He was assassinated by a powerful quasi-emperor in front of so many people. It was impossible for him to still be alive. Hua Rudong looked at Qi Bingfei in surprise, hoping that she could explain. Qi Bingfei didn't want to reveal Yi Qinghan's true identity. She couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan, hoping that he would explain himself. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth rose as he indifferently said, "The reason I didn't die was naturally because of Fairy Bingfei's help. Are you all here to investigate me or to find the divine bird?" Yi Qinghan and Xuechen's aura and momentum were very different. Xuechen was a loner and didn't have any friends. Although his momentum was strong and could suppress ordinary auras, how could Xuechen compare with Yi Qinghan's aura? Xuechen's aura couldn't suppress Xiao Canghai or Hua Rudong, but Yi Qinghan's eyes emitted a cold light, which made the people in front of him shiver. They didn't dare to look directly at him. The parrot smiled evilly, looked at everyone wretchedly, and deliberately provoked, "This divine bird has never seen you. Why are you looking for this divine bird? This divine bird knows the world above and the 9 nether underworld below. There is nothing I don't know and can't do. If you have a good attitude and are willing to improve, this divine bird will not hesitate to teach you." Puff. A few rookies with weaker cultivation and mental state directly vomited blood. They trembled all over and pointed at the parrot, unable to speak for a long time. "You led us to that underworld, and now you are making sarcastic remarks. It's ridiculous." Xiao Canghai's mind was unstable, and he couldn't burst out his anger. Yi Qinghan looked coldly at Xiao Canghai and asked in a deep voice, "When did the divine bird lead you to that place of disaster? How did it lead you there? Tell me clearly. If it's really the divine bird's fault, I will give you an explanation. If it's not, I want you to give this king an explanation." Xuechen. Who do you think you are? Give you an explanation? Not to mention your current appearance, even if you were at your peak, this king wouldn't take you seriously. Now you think you can talk to this king like this just because you have a cheap bird? Xiao Canghai gritted his teeth and coldly rebuked. "Yes, you should hand over the cheap bird today. If you don't, I will let you go to the gates of hell again and see if you can come back alive." Hua Rudong coldly snorted. Chapter 369. Outside the Butterfly Valley, all the heroes were glaring at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. They had no idea that they were not facing Xuechen, but the terrifying god of war from the imperial domain. Yi Qinghan raised the corners of his mouth and looked at the crowd indifferently. "If you want to deal with the divine bird, you have to give me a reason. If you want to deal with it for no reason, then you are forcing me to take action," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. "So what if we force you to take action?" No wonder the quasi-emperor seniors personally took action. Idiots like you who don't know their own limits will die sooner or later. Yes, you are already seriously injured, but you are still acting recklessly and shielding the stupid bird. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Just go and take him and the stupid bird away. Everyone was angry and did not want to talk anymore. Everyone, although the Butterfly Valley is powerless against all the forces, we are not afraid of your provocation. Xuechen is my good friend, and he has been with the divine bird for the past 2 days. It has not interacted with you at all. You want to kill it, but after killing Xuechen and the divine bird, will you find an inexplicable reason to kill me? Qi Bingfei asked coldly. Xiao Canghai and the others' expressions changed slightly. Qi Bingfei's appeal on the cold water star was not small. When she was angry, there were definitely more than a few hundred young people who were willing to support her. As long as she was willing to accept, most of them, including these injured people, would be willing to shed blood for her. Fairy Bingfei, don't you know that this stupid bird deliberately told you that there was an 8th-grade ancient medicine in the arc-shaped mountain range and put us in danger? That's why we are in such a sorry state. Xiao Canghai said angrily. What a joke. The divine bird told me, not you. It let you in, didn't it? Did it say that there was danger inside? Qi Bingfei sneered and asked. It didn't let you in, it just told me. It didn't tell you that you wanted to steal my opportunity, but you were injured and blamed me and the divine bird. It's ridiculous. Also, it clearly told me that there was danger inside, so I temporarily gave up and did not choose to go in. I will go in when I am strong enough. But what about you? You don't know what's good for you. You didn't manage to eat it, but you came to us instead. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Xiao Canghai and Hua Rudong's faces turned ugly. They couldn't refute it. However, they knew that the parrot had deliberately tricked them this time. They couldn't suppress the anger in their hearts. There was no reason to punish the parrot. They also hated Yi Qinghan. Let's go. Xiao Canghai glared fiercely at the parrot. Then, he flicked his sleeves and prepared to leave. TSK, TSK, TSK. There are many treasures in the back mountain of the Butterfly Valley. You're welcome to come and snatch them next time. However, you should bring more people with you. Otherwise, if you get killed, you won't be able to find this divine bird again, the parrot said ambiguously. Xiao Canghai and the others staggered and almost fell to the ground. They took a deep breath and turned to look at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. Their eyes were filled with anger, and they wished they could burn Yi Qinghan and the parrot alive. Yi Qinghan revealed an evil smile at the corner of his mouth. Then, he turned around and returned to the Butterfly Valley. Qi Bingfei smiled bitterly. This time, she had offended Xiao Canghai and Hua Rudong. However, when she thought of the parrot's ability, she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Moreover, there was also Yi Qinghan, who she didn't know the depth of, so this business was still profitable. Therefore, she didn't think much about it. She coldly snorted and turned around to leave, leaving a group of people behind. In the small house of Huanzhou, Qi Bingfei coldly looked at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. For you, I have offended most of the forces of the cold water star. Don't you want to explain your true origins to me? Also, when you leave this so-called ancient purgatory, take me with you. I want to leave this prison. Everyone in the Butterfly Valley has to leave. Qi Bingfei stared at Yi Qinghan and said. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, if you know the real situation of the outside world, you will find that this place is actually a pure land. Although it's a little better, at least it won't be destroyed. I'd like to hear the details, Qi Bingfei said calmly. There are 4 forces in the outside world. The first is the forbidden land of the dead spirits. The second is the human race. The third is the myriad races. The fourth is the hidden wealthy families. There are countless old monsters in the forbidden land of the dead souls, including the great emperors who had proved their Tao, the emperor level, quasi-emperors, pseudo-emperors, the great fulfillment of the divine martial arts, and even the weakest of them are ordinary divine martial arts. In order to survive, they hide in the forbidden land. The loss of vitality in the forbidden land is slow. Compared to the outside world, it is still. Therefore, death almost doesn't exist in the forbidden land. Some stubborn humans or other races can't resist the charm of immortality at the last moment of their Tao transformation. In order to survive, the forbidden land will come out every 1 or 2,000 years to devour the life force of the human race for their own use. In order to extend their life force, they continue to search for the so-called immortality. All living creatures suffer unspeakably. It is lucky to be alive. 3 years ago, a great emperor of the dead spirits led dozens of great emperors of the dead spirits to destroy almost all the super forces of the human race and myriad races. A year ago, 5 great emperors personally came out. All the great emperors of the monarch domain appeared. At the cost of being destroyed, they forced the forbidden land of the dead spirits to retreat. Such a fierce battle happens every 2,000 years. Compared to them, you are the luckiest. You don't have to worry about being destroyed. As for the monarch domain, it hasn't produced a great emperor in 3,000 years. The endless universe is enslaved by the forbidden land of the dead spirits. Yi Qinghan recalled the battle of the monarch domain. Experts constantly fell. The brothers and sisters of the ancient massacre gods sacrificed themselves for a righteous cause. Their corpses fell into the cold sea of blood. A tear fell from the corner of his eye. The number one force of the human race, the ancient massacre gods, protected the human race for 1,000,000 years. A year ago, only a few people were left. 300,000 ancient massacre gods and millions of hunters were left. None of them fled. All of them sacrificed themselves for a righteous cause. The 12 Saint Royal clans and the 6 Beast Emperor clans, except for the Chilan Tiger clan, all the other clans were destroyed. It is lucky for a clan to have one elite left. If you go out, can you do it? Or will you become a traitor like your ancestors? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Qi Bingfei took a deep breath. She didn't expect the outside universe to be so miserable. As for my true identity, I'm one of the ancient massacre gods. I once swore to protect the human race. I'm the ancient massacre god. Yi Qinghan said in a hoarse voice. I used the corpse of a great emperor and perished together with a great emperor. I didn't expect that I would fall into the ancient purgatory and escape with my life. My luck is heaven-defying. So, Fairy Bingfei, leaving the ancient purgatory won't do you any good. Yi Qinghan was very calm. It was as if he was telling someone else's story. Killing a great emperor without any arrogance, as if it was nothing. I'm sorry for making you think of sad things. Qi Bingfei didn't dare to look directly into Yi Qinghan's eyes. Her eyes were filled with shock, as if she was looking at a peerless god of war who, in order to protect the human race, controlled the great emperor's corpse to conquer the universe and fight against the great emperors. It's okay. This is fate, their fate. Who knows how many human ancestors were sacrificed to fight for a chance of survival for the human race. Everyone is working hard. I'm just one of them, Yi Qinghan replied calmly. I'm telling you this because I hope you can help me. Help me recover my strength as soon as possible and help me find an exit. I want to leave this place and return to the Imperial Domain. The Imperial Domain needs me. My sect needs me. Yi Qinghan stared at Qi Bingfei and said softly. I'll do my best. However, I suggest that you participate in this year's Dao discussion competition. If you have the chance to meet the leader of the Celestial Alliance, he might have the information you need. Qi Bingfei thought for a moment and reminded him. Dao discussion competition. Let's talk about it after I recover. I don't know which boundary emperor this Xuechen offended. If I appear rashly and he tries to assassinate me, I might not be able to escape. Yi Qinghan felt helpless. If a boundary emperor wanted to assassinate a ninth heaven immortal, no one would be able to escape. After Qi Bingfei left, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the bed to speed up his recovery. He swallowed a divine snow pill and his soul was nourished. Yi Qinghan entered a state of cultivation. His soul was compatible with the Grand Tao of Order, reorganizing the order of his soul and speeding up his recovery. His wood element was ultimately inferior to the wood element. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed the divine snow pill. The god-slaying eagle had been unconscious. This was actually a way for it to protect itself. Its recovery speed was very fast. With the help of the divine snow pill, it had mostly recovered in 2 days. The parrot was very obedient this time. It took the initiative to offer a large number of treasures and gave all the ancient medicines it obtained to Yi Qinghan. The imperial domain was now in ruins. There were less than 10 ancient massacre gods left, including Di Shang, Yan Yunbei, Di Longtian, and a few other elites. The Zhan family only had Zhan Gu and Yang Zhan left. Both of them had been severely injured and had no choice but to rely on the Kuang sect. Now, the Kuang sect had the most people left. They were all elites of the elites, and there were many superclass experts. For the sake of the human race's last hope, Nye Tian didn't choose to leave this time. Instead, he silently guarded and united with the Kuang sect. Xia Qiue and Xia Ziluo also chose to join forces with the Kuang sect to prepare to rebuild the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty. However, the remnant sect and the Yin Yang 8 tribes joined forces and began to wantonly invade territories. Their disciples even started to develop in the outer regions. Almost all those who didn't submit to the two forces were crushed. Many forces either chose to join forces or submit to the divine ghost sect or the ancient massacre gods in order to protect themselves. The war affected the entire endless universe. All the starfields had to choose sides. The remnant sect and the Yin Yang 8 tribes suffered almost no losses. They were extremely powerful and occupied more than half of the endless universe in just a year. The ancient massacre gods had rested for a year and only recruited less than 3,000 hunters. Moreover, their cultivation was uneven and couldn't form a combat force. Many powerful domain lords who chose to submit to the ancient massacre gods were killed by Tianmu Xinglua and Yin Yang Dongfei. In order to survive, the human race had no choice but to rely on these hidden forces again. The Kuang sect was still on the defensive. Without a quasi-emperor, they couldn't compete with the two emperor-level experts. However, Yin Yang Dongfei and Tianmu Xinglua were afraid that Di Shang would explode before his death. They didn't dare to go too close to the center of the imperial domain to threaten the Kuang sect. Chapter 370. A year later, a dark horse suddenly appeared in the endless universe. An army of 10 million, with the weakest being at the Immortal Gate realm, swept through everything like a swarm of locusts. Everywhere they passed, no one would refuse to submit. When they reached a star region, they would forcefully reorganize the experts and support a leader, forming a banner of Lu Lan. Wherever the banner was inserted, anyone who dared to invade would suffer a devastating blow, including the reclusive clans. They were so powerful that the other major forces were wary. The army of 10 million immortal sects had 10,000 people in a small team. They could instantly kill a divine martial perfection expert. Once a boundary emperor was surrounded, he couldn't even kill a single soldier before he was killed by the army. The Yin Yang 8 tribes lost 2 boundary emperors consecutively and chose to compromise with the Lu Lan cavalry. The world was divided into 5 and no one was willing to back down. Lu Autian held a long sword in his hand and exuded the majesty of an emperor. When he arrived on the battlefield, his aura was so powerful that even Shenong and Qin Yan were shocked. They no longer looked down on Lu Autian. The situation of the world changed from then on. Lu Lan had the advantage of numbers and unity. Even if they occupied a star, after a short period of assimilation, their hearts were still on Lu Lan's side. After all, Lu Lan's army was strict and its laws were strict. If a Star Lord committed a crime, he would be sentenced to death. The experts and living beings under the Lu Lan dynasty saw hope and were extremely supportive of Lu Lan. The name of Lu King resounded throughout the endless universe. In the 100th year of the Age of Emperor's fall, the Lu Lan army planted their flag in the imperial realm. The structure of the endless universe changed drastically. The remnant sect, the Yin Yang 8 tribes, and even the divine ghost sect's territories were greatly suppressed. In order to suppress the Lu Lan army, the three great emperors joined forces to force the Lulan army into a standoff with 10 million Lulan cavalrymen. Lu King, don't go too far. Lulan doesn't even have a great emperor-level expert and very few boundary emperors. Don't you think you don't know your place by fighting over territory with us? Tianmu and Xinglua didn't know Lu Outyan's origins. They only knew that the Lulan dynasty had appeared out of nowhere. No intelligence network could infiltrate Lulan to find out Lu Outyan's true identity. Otherwise, once they knew that Lu Outyan had a relationship with Yi Qinghan, they wouldn't think of negotiating to get Lu Outyan to give up a powerful star region. Humph. How can we allow a junior like you to wantonly trample on the territory that we risked our lives to protect? The Six Calamities Azure Dragon shouted angrily as he stared at the Lulan army. At this moment, the Lulan army had set up the god-slaying formation. Anyone who dared to rush in would die tragically, including the monarch-level experts. Hence, he did not want to force Lu Outyan too much. As long as Lu Outyan was willing to give in, he would be satisfied. Yin Yang Dongfei narrowed his eyes as he looked at the Lulan army. No one knew what he was thinking, but he did not speak. Lu Ao Tian and Shenong Qin Yen flew into the sky. They were a golden boy and a jade girl, their battle prowess was extraordinary. One of them had the aura of an emperor, while the other was so holy that even emperor-level experts would not dare to look at her directly. Yin Yang Dongfei, Six Calamity Azure Dragon, and the others looked at each other and whispered, what powerful individual combat strength. They didn't even appear in the Great War several years ago. Don't force me to make a move. From today onwards, I declare that the sovereign domain will be the boundary of the ancestral land. This side is my territory, and that side is yours. Do not cross realms, and do not send people to assassinate my soldiers. Otherwise, the consequences will be severe. Lu Outyan had already investigated the current situation. He knew that the Yin-Yang 8 tribes were traitors. The remnant sect under Tianmu and Xinglua were just opportunists. In the war that year, the remnant sect suffered the least losses. Now, they were considered the strongest force. Hence, they were very strong and unwilling to negotiate. Are you going to fight against the three major forces? Yin Yang Dongfei threatened. Lu Outyan's lips curled up. His crown shone with golden light, looking majestic like an emperor. A traitor like you dares to be so arrogant? Is this a fight between you and me? If it weren't for the two seniors' contributions to the human race, I wouldn't want to offend them. With just you, I can uproot the Yin-Yang 8 tribes within a year. Lu Outyan scolded in disdain. Impudent brat. Yin-Yang Dongfei roared with killing intent. Lu Outyan smiled indifferently. He waved his sword and said to Six Calamity Azure Dragon and Xinglua, seniors, you've made great contributions to the battle against the undead. Don't ruin your reputation for a despicable person. If the two of you leave now, after I uproot the Yin-Yang 8 tribes, all their territories will belong to the two seniors. Lu Outyan's intention was very clear. Today, he wanted Yin-Yang Dongfei to stay. He had this confidence because there was a terrifying girl standing beside him. She was the daughter of Shenong Qin Yen. If they could tie down Yin-Yang Dongfei, this sovereign expert wouldn't be able to escape once he was surrounded by the god-slaying formation. However, if Six Calamity Azure Dragon and Xinglua didn't want to leave, the price to kill Yin-Yang Dongfei would be too high. It would be good if several tens of thousands of Lulan iron cavalry remained. How could Six Calamity Azure Dragon and Xinglua be willing to retreat? The Lulan dynasty was too strong. With so many people, they could easily kill them. Moreover, they had already seen the power of the god-slaying formation. They didn't want to be defeated by Lu Outyan one by one. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The people of the insane sect rushed from the back, drawing their swords and confronting the three sovereign experts. The current insane sect had gathered all the elites in the world. The geniuses of the 10 great saint lands either chose to join the insane sect or the ancient massacre god in order to protect themselves. Everyone knew that the insane sect was the gathering place of the super experts. Among the 30 people, the weakest one was a young man like Shaoli, who was only 10 years old. In terms of combat strength, Si Wuxia, Xia Ziluo and Jian Qinxue were the strongest. There was no doubt that the three of them would fight sooner or later, but now wasn't the time. Brother Audiobook. It's really you. When I heard the name Lu Lan, I felt that it was familiar. I didn't expect it to be you. Yi Mingxi rushed over as if she had seen her family. She hugged Lu Audiobook and cried bitterly. Lu Audiobook patted Yi Mingxi's shoulder and said hoarsely, "Mingxi, I will avenge your brother sooner or later. For now, you should leave first. After a few days, I will bring you back to Owl Falling Star to see your mother. I don't need to leave. I have brought the people of the insane sect to help you. If you want to kill them, you can leave one of them to the insane sect." Yi Mingxi looked at Yin Yang Dongfei with hatred. The insane sect and the ancient massacre god had always wanted to kill this traitor. Unfortunately, Yan Yunbei had failed to assassinate him several times and escaped. Zi Fei hugged her dagger, looking valiant and heroic. Compared to Xia Ziluo, she was less murderous but more peaceful. Everyone liked her. Xia Ziluo clenched her fists. She did not want to give up the chance to kill Yin Yang Dongfei. In terms of hatred, she hated traitors the most. If it were not for them, the Heavenly Dragon's sacred dynasty might not have been destroyed and Xia Qintian might not have died. Shino Qinyan looked at the people from the crazy sect and nodded slightly. These people who had experienced killing had all stepped through blood and bones and were close to hell. Their combat strength was superb and was still acceptable. Especially Tan Wuxia and Xia Ziluo, their auras were so strong that people could not raise their heads. They were definitely the best candidates to prove their Tao. When the people of the insane sect came, the three great experts had to form an alliance. Otherwise, no one could compete with the people of the insane sect. In terms of individual battle strength, we have plenty of opportunities. Let's find a chance to kill a few superb experts first. There is no need to fight them head-on. Retreat. Yin Yang Dongfei sneered. He did not want to be entangled. The Six Disasters Azure Dragon nodded. In order to maintain the balance, they had to maintain a subtle alliance with the traitor Yin Yang Dongfei. The three great experts retreated together. With the ancestral land and the eternal battlefield as the boundary, they faced each other in different areas. The Lu Land's flag fluttered in the wind. It was very powerful, supporting the monarch domain. Shino Qinyan stepped into the ancient killing god. When Di Shang learned of her identity, he was shocked speechless. A person from the barbaric era was simply unbelievable. However, thinking of Shino's heaven-defying methods, it seemed that there was nothing that the human ancestors could not do. Immemorial Purgatory, Huan Zhu's house. Yi Qinghan was dressed in white. He was cultivating a secret technique that he had comprehended while watching peerless creatures dance in the extreme heaven sea. His movements looked elegant and pleasing to the eye, but it could also heal the body and calm the mind quickly. These days, Yi Qinghan did not do anything else. He just focused on healing his injuries. His soul had almost recovered, but when he used his divine sense, he still felt a faint pain. These days, Qi Bingfei could be said to have gone crazy. She brought the parrot to Cold Water Star and Purgatory, finding large amounts of 7th-grade ancient herbs, several 8th-grade herbs, and even 2 top-grade 8th-grade herbs. However, Qi Bingfei did not know that, because the parrot had secretly tricked her. Qi Bingfei's combat strength had improved by leaps and bounds under the parrot's tutelage. She already had the strength of a pseudo-superclass expert, but there was still a large gap between her and a superclass expert. Sai, you're so unteachable. How can you prove your Tao with such strength? Whether or not you can become a fake emperor is still a question. The parrot seemed to have expected better from Qi Bingfei. It purposely led Qi Bingfei to dangerous places. Although it was not fatal, it was definitely very dangerous. Qi Bingfei was about to cry because of the parrot. Her clothes were tattered and hung on her body. Fortunately, there was no one around. Otherwise, Qi Bingfei would not have the face to see anyone. Divine bird, let's go back. The immortal sect robes I brought are all broken. I only have one left. I don't dare to change. If it breaks again, how can I leave purgatory? Qi Bingfei pleaded. She had already run to the central part of purgatory. Without the parrot's guidance, Qi Bingfei could not leave. She could only ask the parrot for help. Tisk, tsk, tsk, your figure is not bad. So big and white. It's a pity I'm not a man. Otherwise, I would have pushed you down today. The parrot stared at Qi Bingfei wretchedly. It made her anxious and angry. She wanted nothing more than to slap it away. Qi Bingfei's face and ears were red. She crossed her arms to hide her embarrassment. She was flustered and exasperated. I'll take you to the Arc Mountain Range. There are indeed treasures there. 6th grade honey. TSK, TSK, this is good stuff. I've been craving it for a long time. Recently, my strength has increased greatly. I've decided to go in and discuss with the Bee Emperor whether or not she can give me a few hundred gene. This thing has miraculous effects on all kinds of injuries. The parrot said fearlessly. Qi Bingfei thought of the miserable appearance of those people and felt a chill. She did not even have her immortal sect robes. Wasn't running there looking for abuse. Chapter 371. Qi Bingfei wrapped herself in leaves like a savage. She flew over the cliff and arrived in front of the mountain range. Why don't you go in and talk to the queen bee yourself? I don't want the honey. You can keep it all. Qi Bingfei smiled bitterly. No. There are so many of them. I can't handle them all. You and I will work together. You guard the back, and I will block the front and the sides. The parrot refused without hesitation. Qi Bingfei had no choice. She didn't dare to go against the parrot's will. She was afraid that it would lead her into a deep pit, and she would jump in without hesitation. One person and one bird carefully walked into the mountain range. The parrot took out its special skill, the reincarnation mirror. After swallowing a 7th-rank ancient medicine, the parrot's spiritual energy was overwhelming. It was like a living spirit medicine. True essence poured out, and it could activate the reincarnation mirror at any time to sweep the world. As soon as they entered the valley, the sky darkened. Countless poisonous bees covered the sky and covered the earth. The buzzing sound made one's scalp numb. Buzz buzz buzz, in an instant, Qi Bingfei was surrounded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, true essence poured out, and sword qi wrapped around the back to kill the poisonous bees. You bastard, why did you have to come in? There are so many of them. How can I kill them all? Qi Bingfei was mad and roared. Watch this divine bird. Once the divine bird comes out, 10,000 reincarnations, whoosh. A beam of black light shot out from the reincarnation mirror, obliterating everything. Everywhere it passed, even the sky became silent. Countless poisonous bees dissipated. The reincarnation mirror continued to scan the valley. The arc-shaped mountain range continued to collapse, shaking the heavens and the earth. Boom! The mountain range in front was swallowed by the reincarnation mirror. Countless lives fell into the hell of reincarnation. Any living thing that appeared in the parrot's line of sight was destroyed. Whoosh! A shrill sound echoed through the mountains and rivers. Countless poisonous bees retreated, and the dark clouds dispersed. The parrot was extremely arrogant. It shook the reincarnation mirror on its claw and laughed. Kakik, queen bee, this divine bird has always been fair. Let's discuss something. Give me 300 kilograms of queen bee honey, and this divine bird will leave. Otherwise, I will burn your nest down. Whoosh! The parrot suddenly opened its small mouth and spat out a large flame. The eighth-rank flames drowned the front, and the scorching temperature instantly melted the forest. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the queen hurriedly screamed, as if it was begging for mercy, but also angry. Qi Bingfei was sweating profusely. This bird was really asking for a beating. How was this a negotiation? This was clearly a threat. Whoosh! When the parrot heard the queen bee's cry, it took a deep breath and swallowed the fire back. The scorching heat instantly burned Qi Bingfei's clothes. Fuck you! Roared Qi Bingfei. She grabbed the parrot and flung it out of the way. Ignoring everything else, she summoned her final Taoist robe from the Immortal Society and put it on. Her breasts heaved, and her face was as red as the setting sun. The parrot spun around and then flew back up onto Qi Bingfei's shoulder. Its vulgar eyes flickered as it realized that it was in the wrong, and therefore, didn't dare to provoke her any further. Ahem. I forgot. But, I didn't see anything, the parrot vowed. Qi Bingfei was already too weak to even open her mouth to speak. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, I only have one last robe left. If you dare to destroy it again, I will pluck all your feathers and make a new robe. Roared Qi Bingfei. Don't worry, don't worry. This divine bird won't do anything. The queen bee has already discussed with me. It will give me 15 kilograms of queen bee honey and 300 kilograms of 5th grade honey. For you, I have decided not to bargain with it. The parrot took advantage of the situation and then looked into the depths, waiting for the queen bee to send the bees to deliver the honey. Soon, a large number of fist-sized bees appeared in 2 stone troughs filled with sticky honey. One of the bigger troughs was 5th grade honey, and the other was queen bee honey. This kind of thing had never appeared in the outside world. Even a quasi-emperor wouldn't dare to fight against so many bees. Only the parrot, with its reincarnation mirror and 8th grade fire source, dared to arrogantly discuss with the queen bee. Whoosh, the parrot didn't hesitate to take it all away. It was so fast that Qi Bingfei was stunned. I don't have a share. Qi Bingfei glared at the parrot and asked coldly. Yes. Absolutely, everyone has a share. But let's go back and divide it. How about it? The parrot promised. Qi Bingfei gritted her teeth and cursed in her heart, damn Yi Qinghan, what kind of lowly bird did you take in? Sooner or later, you will be cheated to death by it. In the Huanzhou residence, Yi Qinghan sneezed. He couldn't help but be surprised. How could someone who cultivated to this level catch a cold? Who is cursing me? Yi Qinghan scratched his head, feeling somewhat baffled. This was the 11th day in the immemorial purgatory, and also the day when the Tao discussion competition was about to begin. Yi Qinghan's soul had been fully restored. Although his strength was not at its peak, the 4 divine beasts under him were at their peak. If they joined forces with Yi Qinghan, it would be very difficult to deal with an emperor. There was no chance, but it was easy to escape from a quasi-emperor. Half a day later, the parrot and Qi Bingfei returned. Master, I brought back some good things for you. The parrot's face was full of flattery. It secretly gave a top 8th grade ancient medicine to Yi Qinghan, afraid that Qi Bingfei would see it. Humph, shameless. Don't think that I don't know your goal every time you act alone. If you want a top 8th grade ancient medicine, then so be it. I don't care. I'm already satisfied with an ordinary 8th grade ancient medicine, but you don't have to guard against me like I'm a thief. Qi Bingfei was angry at the parrot's attitude and couldn't help but snort. Ha ha ha, fairy, don't be angry. This guy hides things from me, let alone you. Yi Qinghan laughed. This guy is too lowly. Qi Bingfei glared at the parrot and said with shame and indignation. Humph. You dare to curse a divine bird. Be careful that I don't reveal all your ugly deeds. The parrot was angry and immediately threatened. Qi Bingfei sucked in a breath of cold air. Her face was red and her breathing was rapid. She was speechless for a long time. All right, fairy, don't bother with it. After a few days together, you must have understood it. If you get angry with it, you'll die from anger. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Fairy, the Tao discussion competition is about to start. How about we go and take a look? Flying Afterglow Mountain. There was a Flying Afterglow villa here. It was the only holy land on the cold water star, a holy land for cultivation. There were thousands of experts gathered here, from quasi-emperors to immortal sections. The old were past their prime and the young were full of passion. At the highest point, 2 old men sat. One of them was the leader of the Heavenly Demon League, a shape-shifting expert. No one knew what his true form was. They only knew that he was respectfully called the Demon Emperor. After he took control of the Heavenly Demon League, the Heavenly Demon Clan was unusually united. Experts came out in large numbers and young elites came out in large numbers, crushing the edge of the human race. The leader of the Heavenly Human League was a weathered old man. He was Xianyuan Jun, a top expert of the human race. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the quasi-emperor realm. He had yet to reach the emperor realm and was on par with the demon emperor. A group of elites sat cross-legged on the ground, waiting for the competition to start. This time, the Tao discussion competition was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was the discussion of the Tao between the 2 peak quasi-emperors. The second stage was the debate of the younger generation. The third stage was the battle of the elites. The true elites would be selected and nurtured by the 2 races. Brother Xianyuan, we have stayed in this prison for long enough. I hope we can walk out of the immemorial purgatory in our lifetime. The demon emperor's eyes were like stars as he looked directly at Xianyuan Jun and transmitted his voice. Our 2 races have spent a lot of effort in order to walk out of this prison. I also hope that this generation can fulfill the instructions of our ancestors. Xianyuan Jun nodded and transmitted his voice in reply. The demon emperor glanced at a young shape-shifting heavenly demon and said in a hoarse voice, "There are a few very good young experts in this generation. I am very satisfied. If the heavenly demon Xian Qing with the black tortoise bloodline does not disappoint me this time, I will do my best to help him attain his Tao." On the surface, the human race has 3 or 4 experts. However, they are not the ones that I am interested in, Xianyuan Jun said mysteriously with a faint smile. Oh. There are still ultimate experts of the human race that have not appeared. Are they stronger than Xiao Canghai and the others? The demon emperor asked in surprise. There is a little girl by heavenly venerate Howling Moon sighed. Do you remember Qin Wanxin? Xianyuan Jun asked indifferently. I remember. That little girl is only about 10 years old. She has not fought enough. Why? Is she very strong? The demon emperor was surprised. He remembered that little girl because heavenly venerate Howling Moon would bring her along wherever he went. She looked like a mortal and did not have any spirit energy fluctuations. If she was placed in a crowd, no one would notice her. It was because of this that everyone remembered such a little girl. She was deeply loved by a quasi-emperor expert. I have also never seen her fight. However, from what I know, this little girl is probably not ordinary. I believe that she will definitely fight in today's sparring session, Xianyuan Jun said confidently. Just as the 2 of them were discussing, 2 humans stepped into the Flying Clouds villa. One of them was a white-haired old man, and the other was a girl who looked at most 11 or 12 years old. She was as pure as a piece of jade without any flaws. Other than this, there was nothing special about the little girl. The old man smiled and looked very benevolent. He looked at the 2 supreme existences and bowed slightly. He cupped his fists and said, Howling Moon greets the 2 of you. Ha ha ha, heavenly venerate howling moon, there is no need to be so polite. Come and sit. I specially saved a seat for you, the demon emperor said with a laugh. Xianyuan Jun stood up to welcome them. He gave heavenly venerate howling moon enough face. The thousands of young elites in the martial arts arena also stood up and bowed. Yi Qinghan and Qi Bingfei had joined forces. Many people did not have much of a reaction to the news of Xue Chen's resurrection. This was because Xiao Canghai and the others had surrounded Yi Qinghan for revenge. They had already spread the news of Xue Chen's resurrection. They hoped that the experts who had attacked Xue Chen would attack again and kill him completely. The divine bird sat on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Its shifty eyes flickered as it realized that the Flying Clouds villa was indeed a good place. There were many treasures. There was a herb garden for 7th grade ancient herbs that were planted in batches. There were also many 8th grade ancient herbs, all of which were rare and strange and full of medicinal properties. This was the result of the Celestial Alliance's countless years of accumulation. After all, the environment in this prison was extremely bad. If they did not plan ahead, the herbs would run out sooner or later. Chapter 372. Qi Bingfei and Yi Qinghan blended into the crowd in a low-key manner. The divine bird was also very quiet. It only wanted to see what the others had to say. The first stage was the Demon Emperor and Xianyuan Jun's lecture on the Tao. They explained their understanding of the Great Tao and their secret techniques. Yi Qinghan listened carefully. Because the people of the immemorial purgatory were small, many of the immemorial secret techniques had not been lost. The immemorial Tao was difficult to understand. Even the Demon Emperor and Xianyuan Jun were very vague. The Great Tao they explained was superficial. Their understanding of the Great Tao was inferior to his. However, even a mosquito's leg was meat. Yi Qinghan hungrily absorbed the insights of others to strengthen his own Great Tao. We cultivate in defiance of the heavens. If we don't advance, we will fall behind. If we want to cultivate the Tao, we need willpower, talent, and luck. None of these can be lacking. I hope that everyone can work together, the Demon Emperor said in a deep voice after speaking for a while. Yes, Brother Demon Emperor is right. If we want to cultivate the Tao, we need to understand the Tao and the secret techniques. As for the deeper profoundness, it is not convenient to talk about it in front of everyone. Today's Tao discussion competition is to find geniuses that can be nurtured. I hope that you all will do your best and display your true strength, Xianyuan Jun said indifferently. Everyone looked at the two peak experts excitedly. They all hoped to gain the favor of a consummation quasi-emperor. Yi Qinghan glanced around and found that there were indeed a few superclass existences here. Xian Qingxi was a famous cultivator, and everyone on the cold water planet knew about him. He had a monstrous cultivation base and an enchanting face. As he stood there, he looked like a deity, stealing everyone's attention. Aside from Xian Qingxi, there were 3 other people who caught Yi Qinghan's attention. One of them was Qin Wanxin. She was about the same age as Emperor Yi when he first met her. However, her cultivation made Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. When he exchanged glances with Qin Wanxin, his eyes were like needles. Clearly, Yi Qinghan also caught her attention. However, she did not say anything. She only glanced at him and did not pay him any attention. The third peak expert was a man wearing a fire dragon battle robe. He looked like an active volcano. Although he looked calm, his bloodline was like a violent fire dragon. Once it erupted, it could annihilate countless experts at any time. This person caught Yi Qinghan's attention. This man's earth element was abnormally dense. His palm was filled with fire runes. He definitely had something to do with the quasi-emperor who had attacked Xue Chen. The last superclass expert was very low-key, and had been hiding in the crowd the entire time. He looked sloppy, like a spoiled brat, but Yi Qinghan could sense that although he was in the early divine martial realm, his cultivation base was definitely on the same level as Violet Heaven's. Even if he was weaker, it wouldn't be by much. His understanding of the Tao of the Archean far surpassed that of the others. Fairy Bingfei, who is that man wearing a white robe? Yi Qinghan looked at that person and asked in a low voice. Qi Bingfei curiously looked over and saw that person. He was a crane in a flock of chickens. His clothes were exaggerated, and his behavior was also extremely exaggerated. He mixed in with the female cultivators. His flattering expression made people want to vomit. She could not help but sneer, "It's Lu Xuanhuan. This name is really correct. No one knows a son better than his father. His father seems to be able to foresee the future. That's why he gave him such a name." "Oh. Can you explain in detail?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Qi Bingfei looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment. She did not understand why he would pay attention to a hooligan, but she still explained. "His name is Lu Xuanhuan. His father is respectfully called Willow Deity. It is said that the Lu family seems to have the bloodline of a willow tree demon. Later on, they intermarried with humans and gave birth to the Lu family bloodline. Their Lu family's vitality is abnormally strong. Their average lifespan is more than twice that of others. Adding on the fact that the Lu family's men are handsome and the women are beautiful, the men of the Lu family have groups of wives and concubines. The women are also extremely loose. There is nothing else to say. Ha! Don't underestimate him. He is very strong. If you underestimate him, he will definitely instantly kill you." Yi Qinghan smiled. "Humph, I don't believe it. I have fought with him a few times, and each time I suppressed him." Qi Bingfei snorted in disbelief. "You will understand very soon." Yi Qinghan did not explain. He turned his gaze to the man in the fire dragon battle robe and asked again, "Which force does the man in the fire dragon battle robe belong to?" Qi Bingfei frowned, a look of disgust in her eyes as she replied disdainfully, "It's someone from the fire dragon valley. His name is Long Yuan, half human and half beast. He has the bloodline of the dragon tribe and the bloodline of the snake tribe. He's a mixed breed. On the surface, he looks like a gentleman, but in reality, he's a person with an extremely unsightly private life. He's much worse than Lu Xuanhuan. At least Lu Xuanhuan wouldn't force him. This person is used to taking things by force. He's secretly plotted against me a few times, but Xue Chen unintentionally ruined his plans. Last time, you said that Xue Chen was killed by the fiery sword Qi." Yi Qinghan nodded. He glanced at Long Yuan from the corner of his eyes and found that he was also staring at him. The hostility in his eyes was very strong, and he did not hide his killing intent. It seems that Xue Chen has some other enmity with the Fire Dragon Valley. Otherwise, the Quasi-Emperor would not have come personally. Yi Qinghan thought to himself. Qi Bingfei looked at the experts around her. Except for the well-known Xian Qingxi, she did not pay attention to the others. After all, she had been trained by the parrot these days, and her battle strength had increased by more than 30%. She had already surpassed Xiao Canghai. She was a little excited and hoped to get guidance from the Xianyuan army. However, first of all, Yi Qinghan could not fight. She did not have the slightest confidence to deal with Yi Qinghan. "Brother Yi, will you fight?" Qi Bingfei asked expectantly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and whispered, "I won't fight. When you fight, pay attention to Xian Qingxi, the little girl next to the Quasi-Emperor, Long Yuan, and Lu Xuanhuan. The others should not be a match for you." Qi Bingfei curled her lips. She did not believe Yi Qinghan. Everyone knew that Qin Wanqin was a weak child. The Howling Moon Celestial Sovereign almost never left her side, fearing that something would happen to her. Her cultivation was obviously not strong, or perhaps she did not have any cultivation. "I can't fight. Otherwise, I will definitely arouse the suspicion of some quasi-emperors. I don't want to arouse the hostility of so many quasi-emperors. I need you to become the top elite of the human race and obtain some information. So when you fight last, I will help you find their weaknesses. Yi Qinghan calmly transmitted his voice. Qi Bingfei's eyes flashed with excitement. Although she had never seen Yi Qinghan fight, she always believed that his battle strength was far superior to those of the same level. With his help, she would definitely be able to shine in this year's Dao discussion competition. The group of people discussed for about an hour. However, many people treasured what they knew. The second stage of the Dao discussion competition ended hastily and did not have any practical use. Then, they entered the third stage. In this year's competition, only 2 to 3 people will be chosen. Only the strongest and most talented will be chosen. So, everyone, don't hide your skills. Fight with all your might, regardless of life or death. As for why, everyone will understand in the future. Xianyuan Jun said indifferently. Everyone was stunned. They did not expect this year's competition to be so cruel. Regardless of life or death, this had never happened before. Everyone left the martial arts arena, leaving a huge empty space. At the beginning of the competition, a group of ordinary elites fought. Yi Qinghan did not pay attention to them. He only passed on a secret technique to Qi Bingfei. The ancient secret technique, sky-severing hand. He passed on all his understanding of the secret technique to her. He even continuously evolved the secret technique in her sea of consciousness and passed on all its mysteries to her. You don't have to pay attention to the competition for now. Cultivate first. I don't expect you to defeat Qin Wanxin. If it's a tie, Xianyuan Jun will naturally train you. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Qi Bingfei quickly entered into a state of cultivation. She evolved the sky-severing hand in her sea of consciousness. The mysteries of the sky-severing hand kept churning in her sea of consciousness. With Yi Qinghan's guidance, she entered into a state of enlightenment. On the martial arts arena, people continued to fight. If they lost, they would be kicked out of the Flying Clouds villa. The winner would stay. There were only about 1,000 people in total. In just 2 hours, half of them had been eliminated. More than 10 people had died. Many people gave up on their own accord and chose to leave. In the end, there were less than 300 people left. Long Yuan finally could not bear it anymore. Xian Qingxi's power was well known. If he wanted to stand out in the competition, he would have to make a strong move and crush everyone. As expected, he attacked with the fiery sword Qi. It was the same inheritance as the one who had tried to assassinate Xuechen. This kind of fiery sword Qi was exactly the same as the one that was left in Xuechen's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and looked at Long Yuan. He was indifferent and did not reveal any strange expression. After Long Yuan attacked, he started to defend the arena. He used his actions to provoke Yi Qinghan one after another. He did not know that the person in front of him was not Xuechen, but Yi Qinghan. The crowd looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. Based on Xuechen's character, he should have stepped up long ago after Long Yuan provoked him. Why was he so calm now? Xuechen, I will lower my cultivation to fight with you. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Long Yuan hugged his sword and looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. His actions were provocative, but Yi Qinghan ignored it and attacked with his words. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and shook his head. He did not accept the challenge. Long Yuan attacked a few times, but he did not use his full strength. His combat strength was quite good, but it was nothing in front of Yi Qinghan. His flaws were not obvious, but he was not perfect. Long Yuan was not fast enough. At least in Yi Qinghan's eyes, he was a little slow. If Yi Qinghan wanted to kill him, he could let the colorful snake attack and kill him in an instant. However, he did not want to attack. He wanted Qi Bingfei to step on his dead body to reach the top. What? Xue Chen, aren't you very strong? Aren't you arrogant? Now that it is a battle of life and death, you don't dare to attack. What elite of the human clan? You are as timid as a mouse. It seems that Xiao Canghai and the others are nothing more than this, Long Yuan shouted disdainfully. The human clan's face turned ugly. They all glared at Yi Qinghan. Xiao Canghai was furious. He stepped directly into the martial arts arena and scolded coldly, Long Yuan, although Xue Chen is on par with us, it is only because of the praise of outsiders. His opponents are all in the immortal realm. We do not approve of him. He does not represent the human clan. You should be more polite. Humph, so you can represent the human clan? Long Yuan asked disdainfully. Xiao Canghai was furious. He looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain, drew his sword, and stabbed at Long Yuan. Whether I can represent the human clan or not, it is not up to me. The sword in my hand will. The sword light was like lightning, stabbing straight at Long Yuan. Humph. Ant. The Dragon Abyss swordsmanship was swift and fierce, overbearing and fiery. The sword chi of the raging fire sword burst out in an incomparably powerful manner. The Dragon Abyss swordsmanship hit Xiao Canghai's sword like a fierce dragon coming out of the water. Xiao Canghai's body sank, and his sword chi sank. Die. Boom. After Long Yuan's sword hit Xiao Canghai's sword, it shot out a wisp of fiery sword chi and poured into Xiao Canghai's sea of consciousness, forcibly destroying his soul. Xiao Canghai's eyes revealed a touch of horror. His sword had reached Long Yuan's sea of chi, but it could not move an inch. Then, he fell to the ground with a loud thud. The strongest man of the human race could not withstand a single blow. Hiss, everyone gasped. Even the experts of the Heavenly Demon clan were shocked. They did not expect Long Yuan to be so strong. Long Yuan's mouth showed a hint of disdain. He put away his sword and looked at Yi Qinghan. He asked indifferently, "These are the 4 strongest human clan experts. Xue Chen, do you still dare to attack? If not, get out of the Flying Clouds villa." Chapter 373. Long Yuan's aggressive provocation had humiliated the entire human race. The Xianyuan army was somewhat dissatisfied. With such an attitude, how could he be kind to the human race? Qin Yuan was tempted. She raised her fingers and looked indifferently at Yi Qinghan and Long Yuan. She wanted to make a move but was suppressed by Howling Moon. The martial arts arena was silent. Long Yuan had killed Xiao Canghai in one move, and now it seemed that anyone who went up would be courting death. Xian Qingxi was also from the Heavenly Demon clan, so he naturally would not make a move. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan. Everyone knew that Xue Chen was the strongest in the immortal realm, but Long Yuan suppressed his realm, so it seemed that only he could make a move. Yi Qinghan was still silent and was even unwilling to respond. Such a person had angered the divine bird. Damn it, I've seen people courting death, but I've never seen such a lowly person who insists on going to hell. The divine bird was furious. It glared at Long Yuan and scolded disdainfully, "My master is treating you as if you don't exist and is unwilling to make a move. Is your brain filled with water and flour? You'll turn into paste if you move. You're courting death." Pfft, everyone laughed. The parrot's words were too vicious. He. What a cute parrot. Master, I want to come over. Qin Yuan covered her mouth and laughed crisply. The Xianyuan army smiled. After the parrot's ruckus, at least the human race's embarrassment had been alleviated. Long Yuan was furious. He clenched his iron fists and wished he could kill this stupid bird with his sword. He, treating me as if I don't exist. You don't dare to fight, so you let a little bird speak. Do you really think all the heroes in the world are fools? Long Yuan sneered disdainfully. I'm not treating you as a fool like everyone in the world is a fool. Oh, no, I'm not treating you as a fool. You're clearly a fool. To deal with you, there's no need for my master to make a move. I can send you into the depths of purgatory with a slap, the parrot mocked. At the mention of the purgatory, the demon emperor and the Xianyuan army's eyes lit up. They knew that this was the immemorial purgatory. Other than the leaders of the Sky Demon League and the Sky Human League, no one else knew about it. After all, too much time had passed. Even the boundary emperors of the other forces did not know about it. How could this parrot know? Long Yuan didn't know that the purgatory the parrot was talking about was the demon spirit battlefield. He was completely enraged by its disdainful tone. He lost control of his emotions and shouted, "Good. Come, let me see how powerful you are. You don't need this divine bird's help to deal with you. These few days, I have casually trained one. You can fight me after you defeat her. If you can't even defeat the little girl that I casually trained, then don't come in front of me and make a fool of yourself." The divine bird raised its head and rolled its eyes. It believed that it was a wise almighty, so why would it fight with others? Long Yuan was so angry that he trembled. He was so angry that he could not wait to catch the divine bird and bring it to the training ground to stomp on it. "Little Fei, get up and stretch your body. Remember what I've taught you these few days. Kill this little bastard so that he won't have the chance to talk nonsense in the future." The parrot did not care how angry Long Yuan was. It had no intention of fighting and directly called Qi Bingfei up. Yi Qinghan secretly thought about it. Qi Bingfei's talent was not bad. After being trained by the parrot, her battle strength had increased very quickly. Now that she had learned the sky-severing hand, but without actual combat experience, it was unrealistic to rely on her to defeat Long Yuan, let alone kill him. Bing Fei, his advantage is his raging fire sword Qi. It is overbearing and can destroy any attack from the enemy. Don't fight him head-on. His weakness is his speed. However, your speed might not be as fast as his, so you can only use tricks. He has a bad habit when he attacks, which is that he is too confident in his cultivation and doesn't want to defend. His armpit is wide open, so when you attack, first confuse him and let him think that you are going to fight him head-on. When you are about to collide with him, immediately change your move and change your sword style to pierce through his armpit. His battle strength will decrease by half. After you succeed, don't take any risks and quickly retreat. As long as you can force him to a draw, it will be enough. Do you understand? Do you understand? Yi Qinghan gently patted Qi Bingfei's shoulder and sent a strand of divine sense into her sea of consciousness, simulating the battle scene. Qi Bingfei listened carefully and also sensed carefully. She nodded, but she was proud and arrogant. If she could really injure the armpit of the sword user, how could she not take the risk and not want to completely defeat him? The divine bird also understood Qi Bingfei in these few days and knew that she would definitely take the risk. It flew to her shoulder and whispered, "You better listen to Master. If you dare to take the risk, I will strip you naked and throw you into the crowd. Don't believe me, this divine bird will make you jump into the pit of your own accord." Qi Bingfei's body trembled. She fiercely glared at the divine bird and walked into the arena with her sword. "Long Yuan, if you think that there is no one in the human race, then this little girl will come and fight. If I win, then I will talk big. If you can't even beat this little girl, then you are not afraid of being laughed at." Qi Bingfei said disdainfully. "Humph, Qi Bingfei, you and I have fought a few times. When have you ever won? This time, I will not be merciful." Long Yuan said coldly and arrogantly. "Things are different now. Let's talk about it after you win." Qi Bingfei drew her sword and took the initiative to attack. Whoosh, the sword move was gentle and could be used to advance or retreat. This was the strongest sword technique in Butterfly Valley, the butterfly chain sword technique. There were a total of 13 moves. Qi Bingfei had already cultivated it to the peak. Her sword moves were as smooth as flowing clouds and flowing water. Humph! Long Yuan snorted disdainfully. He clenched the raging fire sword in his right hand and poured out his vital energy. He used all his strength and slashed at Qi Bingfei at an extremely fast speed. He wanted to severely injure Qi Bingfei. Sure enough, Long Yuan's sword user did not defend at all. He attacked forcefully from above and wanted to kill Qi Bingfei with one strike. Several boundary emperors shook their heads. Although Long Yuan's flaw was very obvious, his speed and strength were enough to make up for it. At least in front of Qi Bingfei, it was not a flaw at all. Long Yuan's speed was not super fast. At least it was not at Gu Qingyu's level. However, in Qi Bingfei's eyes, it was extremely fast. She could not catch the trajectory at all. Qi Bingfei attacked Long Yuan's raging fire sword forcefully. Just as they were about to collide, her sword suddenly changed. Her sword form drew a half moon and went straight up. She subconsciously believed Yi Qinghan's words. Her body dodged Long Yuan's attack and she stabbed out with her sword. The scene at this moment was almost exactly the same as the scene that Yi Qinghan told her. Puchi, the butterfly sword sank into Long Yuan's armpit and the raging fire sword fell. Ah! Long Yuan screamed. He waved his left hand and slapped Qi Bingfei's shoulder. The raging fire directly drowned Qi Bingfei's body. Qi Bingfei remembered Yi Qinghan's words. When her sword pierced Long Yuan's armpit, she pulled out her sword and stepped back. Although she did not remove all of Long Yuan's palm energy, she at least took away half of it. Thud thud thud. Qi Bingfei was pushed back more than 10 steps by the force. Her face was a little pale. She was glad that she listened to Yi Qinghan's words. Otherwise, if she was really hit by this palm, she would be skinned even if she did not die. Long Yuan was in trouble. The armpit of his sword user was penetrated. The sword qi contained some profound meaning of the order Great Tao. It directly changed the order of his body. It was impossible for him to recover in a short time. His combat strength was reduced by more than 50%. Long Yuan looked at Qi Bingfei in disbelief. Qi Bingfei clearly saw through everything and changed her move strangely. There were no signs at all. It was as if he deliberately collided with her sword. At this moment, the Demon King, Xianyuan army, and Howling Moon who had been emotionless were very surprised. This sword stab is so exquisite that even I did not expect it. Xianyuan army was shocked and applauded. Yes. This sword stab is at the peak of sword Tao. Although there are some flaws, it is because her realm is not high enough and her true essence is not pure enough. This is nothing. It can be remedied in the future. However, it seems that she is a little unfamiliar with this move. It seems like it is her first time using this sword move, the Demon King exclaimed. It's precisely because it's her first time using this sword move that I'm surprised. I feel like her comprehension of the way of the sword has already reached the peak. At the very least, no one in the younger generation can surpass her. The Howling Moon Celestial nodded and gave a definite answer. Everyone looked at Qi Bingfei in shock. This sword stab was too exquisite. There were no flaws. It was as if she had seen through everything. Such foresight was admirable and astonishing. The parrot laughed and mocked, "How is it? Little bastard, how dare you provoke this divine bird with your level of skill? You can't even beat the disciple I have been training for a few days. How dare you fight me?" Long Yuan's face was pale. He covered his armpit with his left hand and circulated his true essence to his wound. However, he could not heal it in a short time because the great path of order was not something he could reach. Yi Qinghan had clearly made preparations before coming. He had tampered with Qi Bingfei's sword and wanted to make her the spokesperson. It was much better to have a local as the spokesperson. Qi Bingfei was delighted. She did not expect this move to be so exquisite. She only realized its benefits after using it. It was much more exquisite than the butterfly chain sword. At this moment, she admired Yi Qinghan to the extreme. She thought to herself, no wonder he can use the emperor corpse to fight a great emperor at the divine martial realm. His cultivation is probably not weaker than a boundary emperor. Yi Qinghan and Qi Bingfei looked at each other and nodded slightly, indicating that they could attack again and look for a flaw. Their exchange of glances did not attract anyone's attention because Yi Qinghan did not make a move despite Long Yuan's repeated provocations. Everyone disdained to pay attention to Yi Qinghan. However, Qin Wanxin noticed the exchange of glances between the two and could not help but be surprised. This move is indeed exquisite. Even I did not expect it. Qi Bingfei's battle strength was at most first class before. It was impossible for her to comprehend such a move. Could it be that Xue Chen is helping her? Qin Wanxin looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. She felt that the Xue Chen she saw this time was different from before. The current Xue Chen did not have the slightest bit of impetuousness or arrogance. He was restrained like an unparalleled sword. It was fine if he did not move, but when he did, the world would collapse. Swish 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 swish. Everyone was still reminiscing about Qi Bingfei's previous move. At this moment, Qi Bingfei had consecutively slashed out more than 10 times. The swords were interlocked and there was no flaw to speak of. Each sword made up for the previous one's weakness, forcing people to take it head-on. Long Yuan's face was ashen. A hint of killing intent appeared at the corner of his mouth. He stopped healing his wounds and grabbed the raging flame sword with his left hand. He wildly slashed at Qi Bingfei, the raging flame sword igniting the surrounding air. Chapter 374. Crackle. The scorching heat spread to the periphery, and some of the weaker cultivators quickly flew back, not daring to face it head-on. At this moment, Long Yuan was no longer conceited and began to defend his armpit, forcing Qi Bingfei to dodge. In just a few breaths of time, she was pushed back more than 10 steps, looking extremely miserable. Yi Qinghan frowned. Qi Bingfei's true essence wasn't pure enough, and her strength was far inferior to Long Yuan's. Even if Long Yuan only had 40% of his strength left, Qi Bingfei wouldn't be able to contend with him. Boom boom boom. Long Yuan was strong, and each of his sword had the strength of 1,000,000 pounds, suppressing Qi Bingfei to the point that she had no chance to resist. Sky-severing hand. Qi Bingfei did not resist anymore, and began to use a secret technique to attack from a distance, depleting her true yuan very quickly. The sky-severing hand's power decreased by half in her hands, and every time it was forcefully dispersed by Long Yuan, she could only maintain a tie with him. But if this continued, Qi Bingfei's true yuan would be exhausted first. Little Feezy, the parrot said angrily. Remember, fake and real, real and fake. Make it so that the enemy can't find your true target. It seemed to be exasperated at the failure of the parrot to meet its expectations. Attack his right chest. Qi Bingfei gave up on the sky-severing hand, and the butterfly sword released Sword Qi, attacking Long Yuan's wound. Long Yuan did not dare to resist anymore, and a tearing pain came from his right armpit, and he could only retreat first. Finally, Qi Bingfei began to counterattack. Attack his lower body. Monkey steals peach, crotch, stab his little brother. The parrot jumped up and down, and the moves it taught were all extremely wretched. Everyone was speechless. Qi Bingfei gritted her teeth, and did not care about her face anymore. Anyway, she would just do as the parrot said. She stabbed more than 10 times, either at Long Yuan's right chest or at his lower abdomen, causing Long Yuan to be flustered, and his anger skyrocketed. Stop it for this old man. A terrifying aura enveloped the training field, and a super expert appeared in the sky above the flying Dawn Villa. His emperor's aura was dense, and his fiery aura covered the sky. Long Yuan and Qi Bingfei took the opportunity to separate, both panting and sweating profusely. Long Yuan's eyes were almost spitting fire as he stared at Qi Bingfei and Yi Qinghan, the evil intent in his eyes. Elder Long Sihai of the Fire Dragon Valley was a famous expert on planet frigid water. His face was grim as he glared at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. Yi Qinghan looked at the fiery sword Qi on Long Sihai's body. He was sure that Long Sihai was the one who had killed Xue Chen. Seeing the way Long Sihai looked at Xue Chen, he knew that there was some other grudge or secret between them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so calculative with a junior. Long Sihai stared at Yi Qinghan for a while, then turned to look at the Shenyuan army and the Demon Emperor. He cupped his fists and bowed. Fellow Taoists, today is the Tao discussion competition. Wouldn't it be detrimental to our dignity to allow a bastard to cause trouble? A. You have the Fire Dragon bloodline, Silver Snake bloodline, and Human bloodline. Who is the bastard? The parrot was furious. It hated people talking about its bloodline the most. It did not care if the other party was a boundary emperor, and directly humiliated him. Blaspheming the emperor's aura. You're courting death. Whoosh! Long Yuan roared and waved his hand. His fiery palm filled the void and directly slapped at Yi Qinghan. He clearly wanted to kill Xue Chen, not the parrot. Stop! Boom! Shenyuan Jun made his move, repelling Long Yuan's attack with one palm. The order of the world changed, and the great Tao rumbled. Shenyuan Jun stood up coldly and scolded, "Who is the one who is tarnishing our dignity? You have guts. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you just because you're an elder of Fire Dragon Valley?" Thud, 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 Long Yuan took a few steps back, and his expression changed slightly. He took a deep breath and said, "Taoist Shenyuan is the leader of the Celestial Alliance. Naturally, you are not afraid of my Fire Dragon Valley, and you don't have to give my Heavenly Demon Alliance any face. However, there must be reason in everything. This bastard bird is spouting nonsense in the Tao discussion competition. Clearly, he was bewitched by his master. Why can't I kill him?" Yi Qinghan did not move. His clothes fluttered as he looked calmly at Long Yuan. He noticed that there was a rich earth element on his body. He thought, could it be that the only earth element in the universe is in the immemorial purgatory? In Fire Dragon Valley? If I find the earth element and return to the endless universe, won't I only need the water element to complete the 5 elements Tao body? The parrot stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Now that Yi Qinghan's soul had been restored, it was not afraid of a boundary emperor. It could not help but sneer, "This divine bird only knew that a mad dog would bite, but I didn't expect that a mad bastard would not only bite, but also a divine bird." You. Long Yuan was trembling with anger. He gritted his teeth. If Shenyuan Jun was not here, he would definitely pull out the tendons and skin the parrot. Shenyuan Jun frowned and looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and the parrot. He signaled Yi Qinghan to stop the divine bird from speaking. Yi Qinghan pretended not to see it. He had already decided to take down Fire Dragon Valley and snatch the earth element. The Demon Emperor finally could not stand it anymore and said, "All right, this is a matter of the younger generation. Let the young people solve it. We are old, so let's not interfere. I hope that the young people can solve it themselves, but I'm afraid that someone will be a coward and only dare to let a bird come out and make a fuss. This is a disgrace to the human race." Long Sihai mocked. He wanted to provoke Yi Qinghan to attack so that Long Yuan could take the opportunity to kill him. "Xue Chen, do you dare to attack? If you don't, then tell your spirit pet to shut up and get out of the Tao discussion competition." Some of the older generation of the human race could not help but scold. Only then did Shenyuan Jun truly notice Yi Qinghan. He realized that Yi Qinghan had been expressionless since the beginning. Even when Long Sihai attacked him, Yi Qinghan didn't even bat an eyelid. He was unusually calm and didn't seem like a junior from an immortal sect at all. Xue Chen, let me ask you. If Long Yuan challenges you, will you accept the challenge? Xian Yuanjun frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan slightly raised his eyes and glanced around. He said indifferently, of course I can. Killing a divine martial artist is not difficult. Good. This is what you said, wait for 2 hours, I will heal Long Yuan's injury and fight with you. If you don't dare to fight, then you are playing with the heroes of the world, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. Long Sihai suddenly said in a cold voice. I can attack, but I don't have a suitable weapon. I need to refine a suitable weapon on the spot. I need to exchange for some materials. Once I refine my natal divine weapon, one move will be enough to kill Long Yuan. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Killing Long Yuan was easy, but after killing Long Yuan, he would have to face Long Sihai and then the entire Fire Dragon Valley. Without Berserk, he could not always rely on the reincarnation mirror. The reincarnation mirror consumed too much true essence. With his current realm, he would not be able to hold on for long. Sooner or later, his true essence would be exhausted and he would be defeated. Yi Qinghan thought inwardly, I have to stall for time. I will refine Berserk first and take the opportunity to refine my physical body and true essence. It will probably take 1 to 2 days. I will stall for time. Xue Chen's physical body and true essence purity were not bad, but compared to Yi Qinghan's peak physical body, the difference was like heaven and earth. They were not even on the same level. Everyone mocked. Killing Long Yuan in one move. Did he think he was a great emperor who suppressed his realm? Xian Yuanjun did not say much. He just asked calmly, what materials do you need? Top grade 8 materials. The more the better, but there must be titanium. Yi Qinghan said indifferently, don't worry, I will use top grade 8 ancient herbs to exchange. As long as there are materials, I can afford it. Top grade 8. The Demon Emperor and Xian Yuanjun frowned. Even experts like them could not refine such materials. As a result, there were very few Boundary Emperor weapons in the immemorial purgatory. They were all left behind from the immemorial era. Yi Qinghan wanted top grade 8 materials. Could he refine them? Yi Qinghan stood calmly and proudly. Although he had lost his Taoist body, he still had his profound essence. The parrot and fire crow both had 8th grade fire sources. With the two of them providing him with fire sources, he could control 8th grade fire profound essence. Refining 8th grade materials would not be a problem. This old man has some titanium here. It's only about 15 kilograms. As for the top grade 8 materials, red refinement gold and 10,000 kilograms of purple copper, is that enough? Xian Yuanjun frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Back then, Berserk was close to 1,000,000 kilograms. However, that was because the materials were too poor. If the materials were good enough, 10,000 kilograms would be enough. This 3,000 kilograms of purple copper was far from enough. Titanium was enough. It only made Berserk malleable and had the ability to grow. It was not suitable to put in too much. It's too lacking. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. This old man has demon cold iron. It's probably 1,000,000 years old. It's enough to forge a quasi-emperor weapon. I'm afraid that you won't be able to refine it. The demon emperor stared at Yi Qinghan and said calmly. Yi Qinghan was secretly delighted. He thought to himself, the demon emperor is willing to take out the demon cold iron. It means that he can't refine it. Without a mid-grade 8 fire source or above, it's impossible to refine these materials. It seems like they can't refine top grade 8 materials either. They're probably worthless. Schwa. Yi Qinghan took out 2 stalks of top grade 8 ancient herbs. They radiated with divinity. Then, he took out 3 divine lotus seeds and a large amount of ordinary grade 8 ancient herbs. These were all accumulated by the divine bird over the years. Other than the divine lotus seeds and a stock of top grade 8 life-prolonging ancient herb, the rest were all taken out. Not enough. I want enough top grade 8 materials. You guys name your price and I'll pay. Yi Qing Han threw out the treasures in an attempt to attract more treasures. The eyes of the Xianyuan army, Howling Moon Heavenly Sovereign, and the Demon Emperor lit up. They stared at the 3 divine lotus seeds and 2 stalks of top grade 8 ancient herbs. These things were extremely important to them. Xuechen. I have a piece of top grade meteorite. Its grade is unknown but it's no lower than top grade 8. Can I trade it for one of your ancient herbs and 2 divine lotus seeds? Howling Moon Heavenly Sovereign asked excitedly. Taoist Howling Moon, don't be greedy. No matter how high grade the materials are, they're all trash without a powerful fire source. There are only 3 divine lotus seeds and 2 stalks of top grade 8 ancient herbs. If you want to take half of them, how do you expect me and Taoist Xianyuan to split them? Before Yi Qing Han could speak, the Demon Emperor spoke up and took the initiative to bargain for Yi Qing Han. Yi Qing Han smiled. He could only take out so many divine lotus seeds. This was the only way to maximize the value of the divine lotus seeds. That's right. I must have 1 divine lotus seed. Xianyuan army said without hesitation. Chapter 375. Everyone could only watch helplessly as the 3 experts fought for the divine lotus seed. Who would dare to fight for the treasure with these 3 experts? No one wondered why Yi Qing Han would have such a treasure. There was no sacred green lotus medicine in the immemorial purgatory. Sky Howl Moon took out a meteorite. Although it was only the size of an adult's fist, it weighed close to 5,000 kilograms. One could see how dense it was. Yi Qing Han also couldn't recognize it. He immediately looked at the parrot. This fella had inherited its father's memories and knew a lot. However, the omniscient parrot also shook its head and secretly transmitted its voice, Master, although I can't recognize it, I know that it is a treasure. It might be the material of an imperial weapon. Let's not care about it for now. Use a divine lotus seed to exchange for it. This old fella will definitely be willing. Yi Qing Han nodded slightly and said faintly, I can't recognize this material either. However, I am willing to use a divine lotus seed to exchange for it. As for whether I can refine it or not, it will depend on my luck. What do you think? Sky Howl Moon frowned. Yi Qing Han was clearly asking for too much. If the immemorial purgatory had enough resources, this meteorite could be sold for at least 100 times the price. However, the divine lotus seed was priceless and the meteorite didn't have much value in his hands. He could only nod in agreement. Yi Qing Han took out a divine lotus seed and obtained the meteorite. He was overjoyed when he felt the density and weight of the meteorite. He kept it in his yin and yang ring. He then paid 2 divine lotus seeds to buy the demon cold iron and the 10,000-year purple copper and titanium metal from the Xianyuan army. He then looked at the other experts, hoping to get more materials. Soon, someone took out a piece of divine iron that weighed close to 5,000 kilograms. There weren't many impurities. It was definitely a top-tier 8 material. It could be used as the main material of frenzy. Such a material could definitely be exchanged for Yi Qing Han's top-tier 8 life-prolonging divine medicine in the outside world. However, in the end, he only got an ordinary top-tier 8 ancient medicine. Yi Qing Han's hands went numb from collecting 8th-grade materials. He exchanged all of the ancient herbs he had and obtained more than 300,000 caddies of middle-grade 8th-grade and above materials. If he could refine all of them, the quality of the berserker would be far superior to the previous one. At this moment, Long Sihai didn't ask about Yi Qing Han's fate. He was focused on healing Long Yuan's. Yi Qing Han secretly ordered the multicolored snake and the god-slaying eagle to defend. He summoned the fire crow and alternated with the parrot to spit out the 8th grade fire source. He used his powerful fire origin profound meaning and wood elemental profound meaning to support the flames. At the same time, he controlled dozens of materials. The flames burned the sky. The scorching temperature was so hot that the entire martial arts arena could not withstand it. The ground was melting. Within hundreds of feet, the celestial gate could not stand. Xianyuan Jun and the others were shocked. Based on Yi Qinghan's ability to control dozens of materials at once and his perfect control of true essence, they could tell that Long Yuan was definitely not Yi Qinghan's match. Yi Qinghan's control over his true essence had already surpassed his limits. The fire bathed. The temperature was getting higher and higher. The entire martial arts arena was burned into nothingness. The ground collapsed. Yi Qinghan rose into the air. He used his mental power to control the molten metal. The order of the great Tao existed with his will. The impurities were all removed. Long Sihai was shocked. He shouted hoarsely, "You're not Xue Chen." The demon emperor and the Xianyuan Jun knew that Xue Chen couldn't have such terrifying strength. His mental power was so strong that it defied the natural order. He was not inferior to a boundary emperor. He controlled a tier 8 fire source, and it was a middle grade one. He could definitely refine top tier 8 materials. Qi Bingfei was in a daze. She could guess that Yi Qinghan was strong, but she didn't expect him to be so strong. Long Yuan's Dao heart almost collapsed. His injuries worsened and he coughed up blood. Xian Qingxi and Qin Yuan were shocked. If Yi Qinghan's combat power was so outstanding, who could stop him in the future? Yi Qinghan didn't care about the outside world. He focused all of his attention on guiding the grade 8 flame to burn the materials. At the same time, he also had to use the fire source to temper his body. His Zhen Yuan and soul energy were being consumed at an extremely fast rate. Yi Qinghan's palms formed hand seals, constantly changing the seals. When his Zhen Yuan was exhausted, he swallowed a complete grade 7 ancient herb. 49 lotus seeds were arranged in an orderly manner in his sea of consciousness, supporting his mental power. As time passed, more and more molten metal turned into liquid dragons. They intertwined with each other and emitted a faint brilliance. They contained the Great Tao and the order of the Great Tao. As his true essence became purer, his mental power also gradually increased. The purer his true essence became, the more his mental power increased. Although Yi Qinghan was refining, he was actually cultivating. The first day passed just like that. Many people forgot the time and just stared at Yi Qinghan in a daze. They couldn't speak for a long time. Qi Bingfei chose a good spot to refine her body and then slowly approached Yi Qinghan. The others wanted to get closer but didn't dare to move because they were afraid of Yi Qinghan's counterattack. The hostility in Long Sihai's eyes grew stronger and stronger. He killed Xue Chen to silence him. Now, he had to kill Yi Qinghan. Otherwise, when Yi Qinghan reached the divine martial realm, it would be difficult to kill him in the future. Uncle C, what should we do? Long Yuan spent a day to recover 70 to 80% of his cultivation and asked Long Sihai in a low voice. Long Sihai shook his head and stared at the Demon King. He transmitted his voice, "Fellow Taoist Demon King, the Fire Dragon Valley is willing to pay any price to kill this bastard." The Demon King frowned and replied hoarsely, "I'm afraid it's not that easy. Also, why are you so determined to kill him? What grudge does Xue Chen and this person have against the Fire Dragon Valley? Fellow Taoist Demon King, this person has gone against the Fire Dragon Valley time and time again. I've already killed him once. I didn't expect his body to be occupied by this person. Now that we've offended him, if we don't get rid of him today, it will be a big problem in the future. With such an expert in the human race, if he has the chance to destroy the Fire Dragon Valley, our Heavenly Demon League will be left behind by the Heavenly Human League." Fellow Taoist, please help me kill this bastard for the sake of the demon race's carelessness. Long Sihai transmitted his voice in a low voice. Let's wait for a while. Let's wait for him to refine this weapon first. The Demon King had other plans. Obviously, he had his eyes on Yi Qinghan's weapon. This matter should not be delayed. Fellow Taoist, please reconsider. If we delay too long, there might be changes. Long Sihai didn't give up and still wanted to bewitch the Demon King. However, the Demon King shook his head and said in a low voice, "It's not that simple. If he doesn't have a backup plan, why would he refine a weapon in public? If you make a move now, it will only backfire and anger him completely. Let's wait a little longer." The Demon King was very strict. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come this far. If Yi Qinghan didn't have any confidence, why would he refine a weapon here? Wouldn't that be courting death? Hundreds of thousands of kilograms of materials had been melted into tens of thousands of kilograms of molten iron. All the impurities had been removed. Only the meteorite remained intact. Yi Qinghan was helpless. Even a portion of the Fey Frost iron had been refined. Not a single piece of the meteorite had fallen. In the end, he had no choice but to put away the meteorite and control the molten iron with peace of mind. Time passed until the next morning. More than half of the Fey Frost iron had melted. Yi Qinghan felt exhausted, especially his physical body. It couldn't withstand such a powerful energy usage. He had no choice but to give up on refining the other half of the Fey Frost iron. Titanium, purple copper, a portion of the Fey Frost iron, red refinement gold, and more than 100,000 years old Fey Frost iron. The molten iron finally gathered into more than 50,000 kilograms of molten iron. Yi Qinghan was worried that the quality was too light, so he chose some good materials. It wasn't easy for him to gather 50,000 kilograms of molten iron. Whoosh! The fire gradually dissipated, and the temperature began to drop. Yi Qinghan's will had determined the shape of the blade. It was exactly the same as it was in the past, but the groove of the blade core was larger. More than 10 drops of blood essence fused into the blade that was almost fully formed, making it even more spiritual. A tyrannical aura filled the surroundings. At this moment, even the Demon King and the others were forced to take a few steps back by the temperature. The parrot and fire crow were exhausted. They had provided the fire source for a day and night. Although they took turns to rest, they couldn't take it anymore. They returned to their bodies and fell asleep. Yi Qinghan mobilized some of the ice water to help lower the temperature of the heavy frenzy. Immediately, the surroundings were filled with mist. The heavy frenzy had taken shape. Apart from the lack of the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth sources and the blade core, everything else was perfect. Yi Qinghan held the heavy frenzy. It was as if he had returned to the imperial domain. His aura soared, as if he wanted to compete with the heavens. He looked down at Long Sihai and the others with disdain. Afterward, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground and swallowed a divine lotus seed and an ordinary tier 8 spirit herb. His mental power increased again, and his violent true yuan poured out. He rushed into the divine martial realm. The purity of his true yuan increased by several levels. The Xianyuan army stared at the heavy frenzy. They could feel the tyrannical and arrogant aura from the heavy frenzy. However, they felt that something was missing. It wasn't as powerful as they had imagined. The most crucial part of the heavy frenzy blade was the blade core. Without the blade core, it was like the great emperor's soul was missing from the great emperor's corpse. The difference was too great. After another 2 hours, Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He used the fire source to forcefully mobilize the fire source and began to refine the cold demon iron. He wanted to use part of the cold demon iron to forge the blade core. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's cultivation had increased by more than 10 times. He quickly melted part of the cold demon iron and added part of the titanium and red refinement gold. After one drop of heart blood, his face turned pale and his soul became extremely tired. However, Yi Qinghan still persisted. After forming the blade core, he engraved hundreds of formations, offensive formations, defensive formations, yin and yang, 8 trigrams, order, destruction, and all kinds of essences. As long as he understood them, he engraved them all in the blade core. Puff! A mouthful of essence blood was spat on the blade core. The blade core shone brightly and radiated divinity. Boom! Yi Qinghan grabbed the blade core and directly inserted it into the heavy frenzy blade. He then sat cross-legged on the ground and didn't even want to move. This immemorial purgatory was blocked by the great emperor and the human sovereign. Even when the heavy frenzy blade was formed, it couldn't form a lightning tribulation. This gave Yi Qinghan time to catch his breath. The demon sovereign and Long Sihai looked at each other and nodded. Lightning flashed in their eyes and they instantly moved. The demon sovereign suddenly moved and blocked the two's path to the martial arts arena. Meanwhile, Long Sihai was like an evil dragon pouncing on its prey. His speed was shockingly fast. He stabbed his sword towards Yi Qinghan's head. It was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. No one expected Long Sihai to launch a sneak attack. It was too late for the Xianyuan army and Sky Howl Moon to stop him. Moreover, the demon sovereign was blocking the way. They had lost all hope. Chapter 376. Whoosh! A sword illuminated the 9 provinces. The fiery sword aura was fierce and domineering. Before the sword arrived, the sword aura had already arrived. It went straight for Yi Qinghan. Everyone gasped. They did not expect Long Sihai to launch a sneak attack at this moment. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan. They wanted to see if he could still launch a counterattack. Long Yuan followed closely behind. He was as fast as lightning. Even if Long Sihai was stopped, he could still kill Yi Qinghan with one strike. Screech! A shrill roar resounded through the mountains and rivers. A huge black shadow shot out from Yi Qinghan's body. It grew bigger and bigger until it covered the sky. Its sharp claws tore through the sky. What is that? Everyone was shocked. They felt that the entire cold water star had fallen into darkness. The golden body that was a few hundred feet tall shrouded the flying cloud villa. In an instant, its sharp claws grabbed the divine martial Dao weapon in Long Sihai's hand. It opened its mouth and wanted to swallow Long Sihai. Long Sihai was shocked. He wanted to pull out his sword and run away. However, the power of the god-slaying eagle was not something a human could resist. The claws of the god-slaying eagle were stronger than ordinary divine martial Dao weapons. It grabbed the fiery giant sword forcefully. Fiery palm. Long Sihai formed a huge hand that covered the sky and slammed it towards the head of the god-slaying eagle. The fire burned the sky and rushed out. Whoosh! The god-slaying eagle was even more powerful. It spat out 8th-grade flames and instantly drowned Long Sihai. Ah! Long Sihai screamed and immediately let go. He frantically mobilized his vital essence to suppress the 8th-grade flames. He did not care at all. An 8-colored divine light shot out from Yi Qinghan's body. It was as fast as lightning. It circled below the god-slaying eagle in an instant. It bared its fangs and pounced on Long Sihai with a thunderous force. Whoosh! The god-slaying eagle flapped its wings. Hundreds of elites were swept away. Even Long Yuan and Qi Bingfei were not excluded. The flying cloud villa was almost uprooted. The debris covered the space. Then, the god-slaying eagle took a deep breath and sucked away all the flames. A sound like a dragon's roar resounded through the Milky Way. It was in perfect coordination with the god-slaying eagle. As soon as the flames dispersed, the dragon's tooth broke through the mountains and rivers and directly entered Long Sihai's body. In an instant, it pierced through his chest and swallowed his heart. Long Sihai was stunned on the spot. His eyes were lifeless, and half of his vitality was gone in an instant. Crack, the god-slaying eagle broke his head with its claw and swallowed it whole. Boom! Long Sihai's body crashed to the ground. Even his blood had dried up. All that was left was a pile of bones, as if he had been dead for thousands of years. Whoosh, after the multicolored snake killed Long Sihai, it immediately returned to Yi Qinghan's body. It came and went like the wind, as if it had never appeared. Screech! The god-slaying eagle swooped down and went straight for Long Yuan. Its big mouth swallowed the mountains and rivers, and the airflow was reversed. Long Yuan wanted to escape, but he could not move an inch. His body flew backward, and no matter how much he screamed, he could not escape the fate of death. Crack! Long Yuan was sucked into the god-slaying eagle's mouth. With a crisp sound, Long Yuan's waist was broken, and he was swallowed in an instant. The demon emperor's mouth twitched. He knew that Yi Qinghan had a strong foundation, but he did not expect that he had 4 spirit pets, each more terrifying than the other. They could kill a boundary emperor so quickly. Sky Lord Howling Moon also swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He wanted to say something, but his throat seemed to be stuck. He is not from our immemorial purgatory. He should be someone who came in recently. Xian Yuanjun's voice changed. He said in shock, Demon Emperor, you can't kill him. We need his information. He might be our hope to leave this place. The Demon Emperor's face turned ugly, and he quibbled with a hoarse voice, you have misunderstood. Why would I want to kill him? If I really wanted to kill him, I would have done it directly. Everyone saw that Yi Qinghan did not move at all. His clothes were fluttering in the wind. Even when a boundary emperor attacked, he did not even frown. He was calm in the face of danger, and he had the demeanor of an emperor. The god-slaying eagle returned and transformed into a burly man. He stood beside Yi Qinghan with violent hammer in his hand and glared at the demon emperor. The power of his bloodline was vast, and it made the demon emperor feel a little strained. So you are from our heaven demon lineage. There was a misunderstanding just now. I hope you do not take offense. The demon emperor felt the hostility. At this moment, he did not want to be enemies with Yi Qinghan. He only wanted to make up for it. He immediately bowed and said. The god-slaying eagle was indifferent and only guarded silently. Whoever dared to make a move would definitely be massacred by him. A terrifying aura spread and shrouded the soaring afterglow manor. Hundreds of elites shot back from afar in a sorry state. They did not dare to get too close. Xian Qingxi's eyes were filled with shock. Even a fool would know that with such spirit pets, Yi Qinghan's cultivation would not be weak. Otherwise, how could he subdue so many powerful spirit pets? Would a bitch like the parrot be willing to submit? Qin Luan clenched her small fists and stared at Lord Howling Moon. Her big eyes kept blinking as if she was asking for something. Lord Howling Moon patted her small head and shook his head slightly, indicating for her to calm down. The Xianyuan army was not in a hurry. Yi Qinghan could not run away. He needed information about Yi Qinghan and everything about the outside world. Qi Bingfei flew back to Yi Qinghan and was more than 10 meters away. She was frightened by the aura of the god-slaying eagle and did not dare to move. She could only wait silently for Yi Qinghan to recover. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's spirit energy was rapidly recovering. His true core was like the mighty Milky Way, rolling over and over. His skin was crystal clear, but it was actually very tough. It was like a divine martial warrior. The divine lotus in his mind spun wildly. With every cycle, his spirit energy would increase by 30%. In less than half an hour, he had recovered to his peak state. However, his spirit energy was still increasing. The strength of his soul had increased by at least 10%. His soul realm had reached the middle stage of the God martial realm. Once he returned to his body, he could easily control it. Unfortunately, Xue Chen's physical body was too weak. Even though it had been refined by Yi Qinghan, he could only exert the strength of the peak of the early stage of the God martial realm. After an hour, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes slightly. The divine light was captivating and made people tremble. They did not dare to look directly at him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up slowly. His clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. His aura was overwhelming. The god-slaying eagle turned into a mark and returned to Yi Qinghan's soul spirit. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and grabbed Zhong Quan. His aura became terrifying as if he was a saber that could split the sky. He was overbearing and wanted to destroy everything. His killing intent was so dense that even the demon emperor was shocked. Yi Qinghan had killed many people, including a great emperor. That kind of murderous aura was not something that could be imitated by others. It was as if he had walked through a sea of blood, stepped on corpses, and walked step by step. Qi Bingfei looked at Yi Qinghan's back and felt her heart throbbing. Her heart was completely subdued and she did not dare to look directly at him. To her, knowing Yi Qinghan was both good and bad. The good thing was that she had a fortuitous encounter, but the bad thing was that her Tao heart was suppressed. There was no hope for her to climb to the peak. "I'm really sorry for destroying the Flying Afterglow Manor," Yi Qinghan said plainly. Xian Yuanjun looked at Yi Qinghan's apologetic expression. How was this an apology? It was clearly a routine notification. However, he could not argue with Yi Qinghan. He could only shake his head and smile bitterly. It's just a facade. If it's destroyed, we can just rebuild it. Taoist, you don't have to take it to heart. Yi Qinghan nodded. He looked at Beast Emperor and asked in a low voice, Taoist Beast Emperor, you don't mind that I killed someone from your Heavenly Demon Alliance, right? Beast Emperor's mouth twitched. Sweat appeared on his forehead. He thought to himself, this bastard is doing it on purpose. He doesn't seem to care about Xian Yuanjun and me. Could it be that he can kill any one of us with his own combat strength and the 4 heavenly demons? Ha ha ha, Taoist, I'm only reasonable. He attacked you and was killed by your spirit pet. He deserved it. Why would I mind? Beast Emperor laughed awkwardly. Oh, it's good that you don't mind. Then I'm sure Taoist won't mind if I slaughter the Fire Dragon Valley, right? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Beast Emperor was speechless. He smiled bitterly and thought to himself, fuck, even if I mind, would you give me face and not slaughter them? Since you won't give me face, why did you say such nonsense? You're clearly toying with me. After all, this is Long Sihai's personal action. It shouldn't have anything to do with the Fire Dragon Valley. Furthermore, there are several boundary emperors in the Fire Dragon Valley. Taoist, please reconsider. Don't regret it. Beast Emperor said seriously. Yi Qinghan pulled out Zhong Quan. The sound of his saber resonated through the mountains and rivers. It was extremely domineering and its aura soared beyond the 9 heavens. I've never regretted anything I've decided on. Yi Qinghan held his saber and turned to leave. When he passed by Qi Bingfei, he said faintly, you stay here first. I'm going to the Fire Dragon Valley. Taoist Yi, wait. The Fire Dragon Valley is very dangerous. It's too rash for you to go there like this. Qi Bingfei quickly reminded him, if you don't mind, you can join forces with my Butterfly Valley. Although Butterfly Valley keeps a low profile, there are still 2 boundary emperors in the back mountain. There's no need for that. It's just the Fire Dragon Valley. I don't care about it. Yi Qinghan proudly stepped out of the Flying Clouds Villa and headed straight for the Heavenly Demon's territory. The Fire Dragon Valley was located in the south of the Cold Water Star. It was close to the extreme southern desert. It was unbearably hot there and normal people wouldn't be able to live there. However, the forest here was abnormally dense and ancient. It was a rare cultivation ground with good weather. Other than the hot weather and dense fire elements, there was nothing else to be picky about. There was a mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles. It was the Fire Dragon Valley. The spiritual energy was overwhelming and there were tens of thousands of disciples. The disciples of the Fire Dragon Valley were all hybrids and was famous for being lascivious. Therefore, there were more and more descendants, but their bloodline was getting worse and worse. Only 1 out of 1,000 people would have a pure bloodline. Long Yuan was one of them, but unfortunately, he died. Yi Qinghan stood more than 10 miles away from the Fire Dragon Valley and looked into the deep valley. He forced the divine bird out and asked for the reincarnation mirror. The reincarnation mirror was his trump card and could be used for sneak attacks. After killing a few boundary emperors, the rest would be easy to deal with. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped into the Fire Dragon Valley. Zhong Kuang split the sky and was overflowing with power. He didn't have any intention to hide and kill. Everywhere he went, the weak were suppressed by his will and died on the spot. Hua! Boom! Zhong Kuang's divine light shot into the sky and disappeared with Yi Qinghan in a flash. He was like a peerless immortal shadow that disappeared into the mountains and rivers. When he appeared again, he was already 100 miles away. His back view was strong and tyrannical. His black hair wrapped around the sky and he was domineering. No one dared to profane him. Who are you? How dare you behave so atrociously in my Fire Dragon Valley? A terrifying aura enveloped the periphery of the Fire Dragon Valley. The powerful aura was recovering rapidly. A palm descended from the sky and slapped towards Yi Qinghan. The sky was even broken by the huge palm. Chapter 377. The newcomer's aura was extraordinary. His fiery palm was unstoppable, and it broke the sky. Yi Qinghan held the saber with both hands, and his true origin poured out. The saber radiance was filled with violent saber radiance, illuminating heaven and earth. There was even some lightning attached to it, and the order of destruction was fully displayed. Slash! The saber swept across the sky, and it had the intention to slay all life in the world. All laws submitted to it, and it attacked violently. Who could compete with it? Whoosh! The sky was split open, and it went straight for the origin. The alternate space was split open, and a vigorous figure fell out of the space. It was a fake emperor, and he couldn't dodge Yi Qinghan's saber. The saber seemed ordinary, but it actually contained the terrifying order of the Great Tao, the law of destruction, and space. The saber was so shocking that the Xianyuan army, the demon emperor, and Howling Moon, who followed closely behind, took a deep breath. With this saber alone, they didn't dare to treat Yi Qinghan as a divine martial realm cultivator, but as an expert of the same generation. Ah! The fake emperor screamed, and the emperor's blood splashed onto the mountains and rivers. The vigorous vitality covered the sky and earth. Screech! The god-slaying eagle roared and swooped down, swallowing all the emperor's blood in one gulp. The broken body of the fake emperor was wrapped in the death aura, and the order changed. It couldn't heal the body, and it fell from the sky without any resistance. Whoosh! The god-slaying eagle swooped down from the sky, opened its mouth, and swallowed the fake emperor in an instant. A fake emperor of a generation actually ended up like this. Yi Qinghan killed cleanly without any hesitation. The Xianyuan army couldn't help but look at the two experts beside him, and the shock in their eyes was self-evident. Can you and I kill so quickly? Howling Moon stared at Yi Qinghan's back and asked hoarsely. The demon emperor and Xianyuan army shook their heads. Yi Qinghan didn't just kill the fake emperor. He injured the fake emperor from a distance, so that the fake emperor couldn't heal his body and couldn't even fly. He could only let his body fall. He did it on purpose, leaving most of the fake emperor's bloodline power for the god-slaying eagle to devour. The Fire Dragon Valley is finished. No wonder he doesn't care about us. Xianyuan Jun smiled bitterly and shook his head. That might not be the case. As far as I know, the Fire Dragon Valley's Valley Master is already a consummation quasi-emperor. The 4 elders are all quasi-emperors. The demon emperor was solemn. After pondering for a moment, he asked in a low voice, "This person's state of mind is very stable. He's not a kind person. I'm afraid he won't be controlled by us. Should we? Let's observe the situation first. It's still too early to make a move." The Xianyuan army was not willing to take the risk. Without seeing Yi Qinghan's foundation, he would definitely not interfere. Boom! A powerful boundary emperor rushed out from the depths of the Fire Dragon Valley. With a cold expression, he looked at Yi Qinghan and frowned. "Xuechen. You can't be Xuechen. So, even the Fire Dragon Valley knows who I am." Yi Qinghan said indifferently. This person knew who Xuechen was, which made him even more suspicious. Xuechen was just a brat from an immortal sect. His combat prowess was only at the pseudo-super first rate, far from the true peak. It was impossible for the Fire Dragon Valley's elder to know him. Yet, the Fire Dragon Valley wanted to kill him. "You are really Xuechen. How dare you come back?" The Boundary Emperor roared. He clenched his fist and punched at Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! The iron fist was tyrannical. It ignored space and distance and instantly arrived before Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up as he swung his saber at the Boundary Emperor. With a twist of his waist, the ground cracked and the Fire Dragon Valley was crushed. Boom! The saber light flashed and disappeared, entering space. Then, it tore through space and landed on the Boundary Emperor's iron fist that was 100 meters away. It did not miss at all. Whoosh! Arg! The iron fist shattered, and the force crushed the flesh of the Boundary Emperor's right arm into powder. Even the golden battle bones broke. The Boundary Emperor cried out miserably as he went flying back. Boom! Yi Qinghan swung his saber wildly. It was violent and tyrannical. Saber light filled the world, shattering the periphery of the Fire Dragon Valley. Whoosh! Another saber strike drowned out the Boundary Emperor's physical body. No matter how strong the Boundary Emperor was, his physical body could not block such a ferocious attack. The Boundary Emperor immediately tore into pieces, and blood spurted out. Screech! The god-killing eagle and the multicolored snake attacked at the same time, quickly swallowing up the Boundary Emperor's flesh and life force. A Boundary Emperor could not resist, dying miserably on the spot. This person is definitely the best candidate to confirm his Tao. The Howling Moon Heavenly Venerate muttered in shock. Boom! Several horrifying auras awakened in the depths of the Fire Dragon Valley at the same time. One of them soared into the sky, soaring into the clouds. It was like a blazing divine sword standing above the 9 heavens. Just its aura alone suppressed all living beings within 500 kilometers, causing them to not dare to move. Yi Qinghan stood at the summit of a mountain and looked over. He was calm and composed, his immortal robes fluttering. He looked like an otherworldly divine son without any flaws. It was like he was one with the world, one with the Fire Dragon Valley. Everyone could clearly see him, but their spiritual sense could not lock onto him. The expressions of the Xianyuan army and the others changed drastically. Such wondrous spatial control was simply at the peak of perfection. Who are you? You cannot possibly be Xuechen. The strongest Fire Dragon Valley expert stared at Yi Qinghan with eyes as bright as torches from dozens of kilometers away. It looks like you all really can't forget about Xuechen. I don't know if I should thank you all for killing Xue Chen and giving me a body to use, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. From what you mean, you are not here to thank us, but for the treasure, right? The expert questioned coldly. The four boundary emperors joined forces and appeared a few kilometers away from Yi Qinghan. They stood together with a terrifying aura. With such a force, the Xianyuan army or the demon emperor alone would find it difficult to look up to them. They definitely would not dare to fight them alone. So what if I am? Give me what I want and I can leave immediately. If you don't want to give it to me, I will just snatch it, Yi Qinghan said without holding back. Snatch? Ha ha ha. Kid, aren't you a little too arrogant? Do you think you can still leave alive today? Fire Dragon Valley Master Long Sheng mocked in disdain. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked at Long Sheng. He asked with a hoarse voice, I want to know if the thing I want is with you. Yi Qinghan obviously did not want the reincarnation mirror to destroy the treasure. If it was any other treasure, it would be fine. If it was the earth essence, it would be a waste of a heavenly treasure. There was only one of it in the world. When it disappeared, who knew how long it would take for another one to form? Humph, I have already moved the living earth essence. Don't even think about it. Since you are here today, don't leave. Long Sheng was furious and said coldly. Living earth essence. This was an item from the mythological era. Legend had it that it could grow on its own and would never be consumed. It could allow divine medicine to grow quickly. Divine medicine that originally needed hundreds of thousands of years to form could be completed in tens of thousands of years with some living earth essence. This was a true chaos treasure. It was even more valuable than a Chaos Emperor weapon. It was hard to find even in 1,000,000 years. Who would have thought that it would exist in the immemorial purgatory? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He thought to himself, as expected, they are here for treasures like the earth essence. However, the living earth essence seems to be even more valuable. This item can create the earth essence. No wonder their bodies have such rich earth elements. You can't move this kind of item. Moreover, this is the immemorial purgatory. It's just a cold water star. Where can you move it to? Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. He looked at the four people in front of him and decided to kill them first. However, he could not destroy Long Sheng forcefully. If the living earth essence was destroyed by the reincarnation mirror in his universe ring, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Swish! The reincarnation mirror appeared in Yi Qinghan's hand. The jet-black surface of the mirror did not seem to be anything special. Long Sheng and the others could not recognize what kind of treasure it was. However, their hearts suddenly hung up. The feeling of death instantly enveloped the entire Fire Dragon Valley. Swish! A beam of black light carrying the mysteries of reincarnation swallowed up a quasi-emperor on the far left. This quasi-emperor did not even have the chance to scream before he disappeared without a trace. It was as if he had never appeared. Retreat! Long Sheng and the other two were horrified. They fled in 3 different directions. Screech! Whoosh! The god-slaying eagle and the multicolored snake charged out. The multicolored snake turned into a heavenly dragon coiling in the sky. It shuttled through the universe and entangled Long Sheng. The god-slaying eagle charged out and blocked his escape route. Yi Qinghan laughed coldly and activated the reincarnation mirror. In an instant it engulfed another quasi-emperor. A huge black hole appeared in the void. Another quasi-emperor roared in horror and fled toward the fiend emperor. Fellow Taoist emperor, save me, boom. The fiend emperor made his move. However, he did not save him. Instead, he waved his hand and suppressed him. That quasi-emperor did not expect that the fiend emperor would not help him and would even kill him. He did not have any chance to resist and died tragically on the spot. The fiend emperor had offended Yi Qinghan once. This time, he could only be considered to be making amends. The Xianyuan army did not expect the Fiend Emperor to do this. A strange look flashed across their eyes. Boom! The multicolored snake entangled Longsheng and turned into a 3-inch snake. It darted around Longsheng's battle robes at lightning speed. Occasionally, it would open its fangs and take away a piece of flesh. Ah! Get lost! Boom boom boom! Longsheng kept attacking himself. However, every time he hit himself, he would be severely injured. He immediately coughed up blood. Ah ah! Longsheng let out a shrill cry, causing the Fiend Emperor and the others to shudder. The multicolored snake was too fast. It slithered around continuously. Even one's divine sense could not capture its trajectory. When this creature was at the peak of grade 8, it could even bite the Tianwu Emperor, let alone a quasi-emperor. Holes kept appearing on Longsheng's body. Black blood spurted out. The multicolored snake's speed did not have much effect on him. After all, he also had the bloodline of the silver snake. However, the multicolored snake's ability to devour vitality made him despair. Every time it bit him, 20% of his vitality would be devoured. Boom boom boom. Longsheng transformed into a half-dragon, half-snake body. He rolled and roared in the Fire Dragon Valley, wanting to crush the multicolored snake to death. However, he forgot about the god-slaying eagle. The god-slaying eagle swooped down from the void. Its sharp claws pierced through the dragon scales and locked onto his vital point, pulling him into the void. The multicolored snake took advantage of this and bit through Longsheng's body, entering his body. Roar! Longsheng roared and swung his huge dragon tail at the god-slaying eagle. However, the god-slaying eagle was one step ahead and flung him away. Gotcha! With a crisp sound, a bolt of lightning flashed through Longsheng's body. The multicolored snake opened its bloody mouth and bit down on his heart. Longsheng's body stiffened and fell from the sky. Screech! The god-slaying eagle swooped down. Its iron claws crushed his head and swallowed it. Half of Longsheng's body fell to the ground, causing the Fire Dragon Valley to shake. Chapter 378. The Demon Emperor, Xianyuan Army, and Howling Moon gasped. Their fingertips trembled and they did not know what to say. Among the 4 boundary emperors, other than the one who was suppressed by the Demon Emperor, the other 3 did not even last for 10 breaths. This was especially so for Longsheng. His strength was comparable to a demon sovereign's, and he was not too far off. However, he did not even use a single move in the face of the multicolored snake and the god-slaying eagle joining forces. Come out and help me find the living soil essence. Yi Qinghan forced the tired divine bird out. The divine bird was furious. It opened its eyes and said tiredly, Master, it's in a cave deep inside. It's surrounded by mountains. It's easy to find. Whoosh, the parrot returned to the sea of consciousness and fell into a deep sleep again. Tens of thousands of years ago, the disciples of the Fire Dragon Valley hid deep inside and did not know what to do. The 4 elders and valley masters were dead. What could these ordinary disciples do? What should we do? Run. The cold water planet is only so big. Where can we run to? They're all dead. Let's surrender, the ordinary disciples cried and hid in the Fire Dragon Valley's martial arts arena. Yi Qinghan turned to look at the 3 experts and said calmly, My 3 friends, from now on, the Fire Dragon Valley is my private territory. You won't mind, right? The Demon Emperor, Xianyuan Army, Howling Moon shrugged. He was an itinerant cultivator and did not get involved in the fight for territory. This matter had nothing to do with him. Since you're silent, it means you agree. From today onwards, it's best not to let anyone near the Fire Dragon Valley. Otherwise, even if I can hold it in, my spirit pet can't. Yi Qinghan turned and walked into the depths. The god-slaying eagle and the rainbow snake guarded the sides. More than 10 disciples rushed out of the Fire Dragon Valley to escape but were killed instantly. Their vitality was devoured by the rainbow snake and the god-slaying eagle. The birds in the sky were dead. Inside the Fire Dragon Valley, tens of thousands of disciples were suppressed together. Yi Qinghan looked down at the crowd and said in a low voice, "Those who don't think they have done anything forcefully, stand on the left. Those who have, stand on the right." Everyone's face was pale and they were sweating profusely. The Fire Dragon Valley relied on forceful plundering. There weren't many people who relied on themselves. Seeing Yi Qinghan's attitude, it seemed like he was going to punish those who violated the law. Some people wanted to get away with it and followed the group to the left. However, most of the people were still on the right. Their sins were known by everyone, so there was no way to hide. They could only pray that Yi Qinghan would not be too cruel and spare their lives. Yi Qinghan smiled and said to the rainbow snake and the god-slaying hawk, "I'll leave it to you." Screech! The god-slaying eagle roared, and developed a huge body that covered the sky. It opened its mouth, and swallowed thousands of people in one gulp. Instantly, blood flowed like a river on the martial arts field. Tens of thousands of spirits wailed, and miserable cries rang out incessantly. Screech the rainbow snake turned into lightning. Everywhere it passed, there were withered corpses and bones. It was as if they had been dead for tens of thousands of years. Not even a drop of blood was left. No one could escape from this one-sided massacre. Yi Qinghan could not leave any scourge. Moreover, he did not know if these people knew about the swelling soil essence. He would rather kill them than let them go. Otherwise, if the Xianyuan army and the demon sovereign knew that there was swelling soil here, they would definitely turn against him. Nearly 20,000 people were slaughtered by the god-slaying hawk and the rainbow snake in just 3 breaths. The smell of blood filled the air. Yi Qinghan stepped into the martial arts field. Seeing that there were still a few hundred people left, he reached out and grabbed one of them. He used his divine senses to search his sea of consciousness. The memories of the other party were clear at a glance. Crack, his neck was directly broken. Yi Qinghan threw the corpse to the god-slaying hawk. One by one, no one managed to escape. After an hour, only 3 people were left alive. This was because Yi Qinghan had shown mercy. Yi Qinghan erased part of their memories and added another part. He kept the 3 of them as the external contacts of the Fire Dragon Valley. After that, Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley that the parrot mentioned. Sure enough, it was surrounded by mountains. The earth element was rich, and the mountains and rivers were evergreen. There was a big hole that had been dug out. The outside of the hole was covered by a formation. Without Longsheng's permission, no one could enter. This kind of ancient formation was not common. However, to Yi Qinghan, who was a master of formations, it was like nothing. Yi Qinghan's divine senses wandered around the formation and felt its energy. In a short while, he had assimilated its energy. His figure flashed and entered the cave. The stones in the cave had turned into soil. The earth element was rich to the extreme. Yi Qinghan went deep into the cave. The earth element had reached its limit. In the deepest part, there was a praying mat in a very special piece of soil. It was at most the size of a palm. There were also a few stalks of 8th-grade top ancient medicine planted nearby. They were still lush even without sunlight. They were full of divinity and were almost transforming. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and decided to go into seclusion here. God-slaying hawk, inform the outside world. If anyone comes to find me, reject them all. If I don't come out, no one is allowed to disturb me. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yes, master. The god-slaying hawk was loyal and would not be disloyal. At this moment, it had transformed into a valiant man. After I come back, I will go into seclusion. This time, I might be in seclusion for a long time. It could be a dozen years or even 100 years. Don't waste time. Leave 2 stalks of ancient medicine for me. You can divide the rest among yourselves. Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. The multicolored snake stuck out its tongue and coiled around an ancient medicine. However, it did not swallow it. Instead, it slowly absorbed its spiritual energy. This place was dark and damp. The earth element was rich. It was a sacred place for it to cultivate. The god-slaying hawk notified the outside world. Then, it turned into a wisp of aura and returned to the cave through the contract mark. Yi Qinghan was already sitting cross-legged on the ground, entering a state of cultivation. Time flew by rapidly. The sovereign realm was developing rapidly. Lu Outyan brought the Lu Lan army and forced the 3 factions to take a step back once more. They took over the Aeon battlefield and the insane sect finally had a place to train. 200 years had passed since the Age of Emperors. It had been more than 100 years since Yi Qinghan's death. Yi Qinghan's name gradually disappeared in the river of history. Only the insane sect and the ancient massacre god remembered that Yi Qinghan had risked his life to obtain a chance of survival back then. The younger generation sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. Countless young experts emerged from the various planets. Some of them soared into the sky and were not inferior to the insane sect's elders. The ancient massacre god gradually recovered, but compared to his peak, he was no longer as lively as before. 300 years had passed since the Age of Emperors' fall. An earth-shattering battle took place in the Aeon battlefield, shocking the entire universe. The Azure Dragon clans Long Qiong and the rising star of the human race, Yi Wudao, fought to the death. In the end, Yi Wudao lost miserably by a single move and died in the Aeon battlefield. Yi Wudao's name resounded throughout the universe. He became one of the strongest candidates to prove his Tao. 340 years had passed since the Age of Emperors' fall. The Heavenly Monkey King and Yang Zhan fought in the primitive universe. The two fought until the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless dead stars exploded. In the end, the Heavenly Monkey King returned while Yang Zhan completely disappeared. In this era, if one wanted to prove their Tao, they had to step over corpses. Anyone could die. For example, Long Qiong and Yang Zhan. The strongest of the insane sect was Wuxia. When his true golden bloodline erupted, he instantly killed countless people. Whether it was luck or talent, he far surpassed everyone else. Even Jian Qinxue was somewhat inferior. As for the outer members, Xia Ziluo was definitely a top candidate to prove her Tao. She was not inferior to the Heavenly Monkey King and Wuxia. In terms of strength, she was even stronger than the two. However, her recent thoughts were not on proving her Tao. Instead, she was rebuilding the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty. Xia Qiyu was the new emperor of the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty. Her methods were superb, not inferior to Lu Outyan's. Using the name of the primordial era, she opened up a new battlefield. Working together with Lu Lan, they kept suppressing the 3 hidden sections. The entire imperial domain was taken over. Lu Outyan did not make things difficult for Xia Qiyu. He returned the original territory of the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty to her. In return, Xia Qiyu took down dozens of stars and gave them to Lu Outyan. In the 400 years of the Emperor's Fall era, Yi Qinghan had left for 300 years. The 6 disasters Azure Dragon could not resist the Grand Tao of Order. Its vitality dissipated, and it turned into Tao at the Divine Ghost Gate. The 6 disasters Azure Dragon ultimately turned into Tao so quickly for the sake of the human race and the endless universe. It received the recognition of the human race and the myriad races and was buried outside the ancestral land. A large number of elites were not qualified to be buried in the ancestral land. Thus, a new cemetery was opened. Perhaps Di Shang was not destined to die. He only used half of the yin-yang flower divine medicine. The last half worked in the end. Otherwise, he would have turned into Tao together with the 6 disasters Azure Dragon. Shenong Qinyan was like a peerless fairy. She only appeared once. After that, she entered the ancient massacre god's world of massacre and the library. She never appeared again. The human race and the myriad races were developing rapidly. It must be mentioned that the pangolin that Jin Yen brought back had grown up. It was so strong that even Si Wuxia felt pressured. If he did not use his full strength, he would not be able to catch it. The 300-year-old pangolin could actually transform. At its age, it was at most the same as a 7 or 8-year-old child of the human race. To be able to reach this stage was simply shocking. However, after it transformed, it had always wanted to enter the ancestral land of the human race. Unfortunately, there were countless great formations outside the ancestral land, and they were all monarch formations. It was impossible for it to enter the ancestral land. In the desolate island of the absolute heaven ocean, Emperor Yi played the zither. The sound of nature spread in all directions. The peerless girl danced gracefully. Her immortal robe fluttered. She was so beautiful that it took one's breath away. After the zither ended, the two walked side by side. Their skin was smooth and translucent. They stood proudly on the shore of the absolute heaven ocean. They were like peerless fairies that could only be seen but not touched. A gust of sea breeze blew by. Their skin could not help but flutter their robes. It was so beautiful that the world lost its color. Sister, how much time has passed in the outside world? Why hasn't Master come back to pick me up? Emperor Yi was a little sad. Although he did not know how much time had passed in the outside world, he knew that it had been a very long time. Maybe he doesn't dare to come back. Or maybe he has forgotten about you with a peerless beauty by his side. The girl still looked at the wicked and was unwilling to believe in humans. Sister, don't talk about him like that. Master is definitely not such a person. He must have been delayed by something. Emperor Yi shook his head. Even if she was beaten to death, she would not believe that Yi Qinghan did not dare to come back. However, the last sentence made her a little uncertain. After all, there were still Jian Qinxue and Xia Ziluo in the outside world. Who dared to say that these two would not pose a threat to her? Chapter 379. The absolute heaven sea was strangely quiet. The waves rippled gently and the willows on the deserted island swayed gently. Emperor Ye's eyes were filled with worry. He gently said, Sister, I want to go back. I'll be back in 2 years at most. Is that okay? The girl coldly shook her head and said, No. We agreed that if he came to pick you up, I would naturally allow you to leave. Now, don't even think about me sending you back. Emperor Yi was currently in the middle stage of the God Martial Realm. He was only half a step away from the peak of the God Martial Realm. However, it was extremely difficult for him to find the Qinling Mountains. Sister, the human race has been in troubled times recently. Without me by his side, I'm always worried that something will happen to him. Emperor Yi bitterly smiled and begged, if sister is willing to agree, when I come back, I'll accompany you for 100 years. If the human race is fine, I'll bring him back and live in seclusion here. The girl was still stubborn. You're stupid. Stupider than me. Actually, if he doesn't come and you don't leave, that's the best choice. What if you go back and see someone else by his side? What if you come back depressed? Or if he's already dead, wouldn't you be even sadder? At this time, waiting here with hope and no news might be the best news. The girl closed her eyes and played with her hair. In truth, she was just worried that Emperor Yi would be hurt. Sister, he's not that kind of person. I know you're doing this for my sake, but recently I've been worried about him. If I don't go back this time, my cultivation won't be able to improve anymore. Emperor Yi earnestly tried to persuade the girl. Ha! The girl sighed and remained silent. Sister. Emperor Yi grabbed the girl's hand and said coquettishly, if sister is worried, you can come with me. Alright, I won't go. In 2 years you'll be on the other side of the absolute heaven sea. If you don't come, I'll personally come and catch you. Don't even think about leaving this place. The girl shook her head and gently waved her hand. Emperor Yi disappeared into the darkness, and when he reappeared, he was already at the cliff. Jian Shui's stone sculpture was no longer there. It was unknown whether it had been taken away by Zhe Kan or Yi Qinghan. The place was empty and desolate. Emperor Yi was in a hurry to return. He transformed into his armor with the god-slaying eagle and traveled as fast as lightning, riding the wind and breaking the waves. He streaked across the galaxy like a shooting star, shocking many people. Now, things were still the same, but people had changed. In just a few hundred years, some star regions were bleak and lifeless. Most of the people were unrecognizable. The famous people in the past seemed to have all died. They were all brand new faces. Emperor Ye's heart began to beat faster. Halfway through their journey, they chose to descend on a planetary system and interrogate him about the events of the past few hundred years. His face was pale, and when it came to Yi Qinghan, no one knew who he was. In the end, only a few hundred people survived the great battle. They went their separate ways and did not mention anything about the battle. After all, it was too tragic. Many of their brothers and sisters died, and many of their bones were not even cold yet. Just thinking about it made their hearts ache. As for the remnant sects and the 8 tribes of Yin and Yang, they would not publicize Yi Qinghan's merits. Therefore, Yi Qinghan's era had declined. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Emperor Yi rested for a moment and swallowed a large number of divine pills. Then, he sped towards the sovereign domain again. Since the battle, the sovereign domain had become much quieter. Many dilapidated palaces stood there, and the deep ravines moved people's hearts and souls. It was as if they were telling the story of the earth-shattering battle, as if they were witnessing the tragic deaths of countless heroes. On this day, the insane sect gathered. Even Lu Outyan came. It seemed that the remaining elites of that generation had all come. Regardless of the grudges in the past, they were strangely harmonious today. Their faces were very solemn. Today was the day of the end of the great battle. It was also the death anniversary of Yi Qinghan. In fact, every 10 years, a small event would be held to pay tribute to the heroes of that year. The location was always at the insane sect. Gu Qingyu glanced at the people who came. There were only 40 to 50 people, which was almost half of the previous event. The elites of that year, in order to prove their Tao, fell one after another. Only these few people were left. He could not help but sigh. Thank you all for coming to the memorial. Gu Qingyu cupped his fists and said. You don't have to be like this, Daoist Qingyu. We are the only ones left from that battle. Others may not pray for the heroes who died, but we have to let the souls of the heroes know. Qitian Monkey King was indifferent. Now, he was the only one of the 10,000 races who could really take part in the battle. The pangolin was still young. He probably had no chance to prove his Tao. Everyone here is a superclass expert. We have participated in the battle of life and death. We all understand that the real calamity is not over yet. I hope that when we meet each other in the battle, if there is a chance to be merciful, please spare our lives. Besides each other, who else can we trust? Xia Qiyu clenched her fists and said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded. This sentence was the most reasonable. Today, more than 60% of the people who proved their Tao were here. If it was about the future great emperor, it was most likely to be born here. However, the more people there were, the crueler the battle would be. In the end, there would only be 3 to 5 people left. Qitian Monkey King looked at Zhang Gu apologetically and said in a hoarse voice, Daoist Zhang Gu, I'm very sorry. I didn't have time to explain about your senior brother. He gave up in the end. I didn't mean to kill him. Zhang Gu was sad. He knew Yang Zhan's temperament the best. Once he was defeated, he would never linger on. Death was the best ending for him. I have already buried his bones in the ancestral land of the Zhan clan. Don't worry. Before he left, he told me that if he lost, he wouldn't live. I don't care too much about it. We have long been indifferent to life and death. Zhang Gu said in a low voice. Come, everyone, let's pay respects to the martyrs first. Then, let's drink and talk about what we have learned over the years. Gu Qingyu and the others held a jar of wine and walked towards the place of the martyrs. Inside the crazy sect, a valley was flattened. A tombstone that was thousands of feet tall rose from the ground. It was more than 100 feet wide. It was carved out of a mountain and was very flat. At the top, the words Martyrs Monument were engraved. Below it were densely engraved names. Some belonged to the human race, and some belonged to the 10,000 races. As long as one remembered the name of the battle back then, it was engraved on the monument. Yi Qinghan was ranked second, and Great Emperor Fu Su was ranked first. There were dozens of small graves in the valley, but they were just cenotaphs. There was nothing inside. The cenotaphs of Great Emperor Fu Su, Yi Qinghan, and dozens of quasi-emperors. More than 40 superclass experts were all dressed in black. They held jars of wine in their hands and raised them above their heads. They poured half of the wine and bowed deeply 3 times. There was no need to say anything because they were all participating in the battle. Hua, the wine seeped into the ground and the atmosphere became oppressive. Si Wuxia, Li Jiuchong, and the others came in front of Yi Qinghan's tombstone and paid their respects alone. This was already a habit. The crowd retreated, giving them some space and time alone. Emperor Yi stepped into the imperial domain and turned into a wisp of immortal shadow. He quickly disappeared without alerting anyone. Stepping through the periphery of the eternal battlefield and the ancestral land, Emperor Yi came to the center of the imperial domain. Looking at the dilapidated Emperor Abyss City and the barren land, he had a bad premonition. He turned around and stepped toward the insane sect. The insane sect no longer had any external forces. There were only a dozen people left. The external Great Formation had been built, exactly the same as before. Emperor Yi was familiar with the Great Formation. He entered the insane sect without alerting anyone. Dozens of experts sat cross-legged on the martial arts field of the insane sect. Many of them were unfamiliar. Emperor Yi's silent arrival surprised them. Lu Outyan only knew Emperor Yi when he was young. Now, his temperament had changed greatly. He was surrounded by immortal qi and his skin was smooth. He had only seen such an arrogant aura on Shenong Qinyan. Qitian Monkey King recognized Emperor Yi and said in surprise, "So it's Daoist Emperor Yi. Where have you been all these years? You are Ren Huang Yi." Lu Outyan was astonished. The child who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken had actually grown to this extent. "Greetings, Daoist friends. Greetings, Crown Prince." Emperor Yi bowed slightly and looked at Lu Outyan. It was as if he was thinking of his childhood. A trace of emotion flashed through his heart. Emperor Yi glanced around and expanded his divine sense. He found that the people of the insane sect were all in the outer valley. He stepped forward and looked at the martyr's monument. The second name was Yi Qinghan. His vision turned black and he fell backward. "Senior sister. Son." Everyone was shocked. Jian Qinshue stepped forward and hugged Emperor Yi. She found that she could not take the blow and fainted. Xia Ziluo and the others also followed. They could not help but sigh. In terms of feelings, perhaps no one was more dependent on Yi Qinghan than Emperor Yi. Even if she attained Tao in the future, she could not leave. This time, she saw Yi Qinghan's tombstone as soon as she came back. Obviously, she could not take it. Jian Qinxue carried Emperor Yi back to the inner sect and slowly adjusted her soul and true essence. She only woke up after an hour. Whoosh! Emperor Yi grabbed Jian Qinxue. Pearl-like tears poured out. He cried, "Sister Xue, how could Master die in battle? Is this a lie? I want to open the coffin and examine the body." "Son, don't make a fuss." Jian Qinshue's emotions were affected. Tears fell like rain. She cried, "Brother Qinghan's body is buried in the ancestral land of the human race. You and I can no longer enter. The tombstone of the insane sect is just a cenotaph. Who killed him? Tell me who killed him." Emperor Yi roared. The divine Guqin imprint burst out with a terrifying light. He fell into madness. Wind and clouds rose between heaven and earth. The entire imperial domain was filled with a tragic melody. Murderous aura rose from all directions and gradually filled the outside of the imperial domain. "It's the Forbidden Land. I'll pass the plot of that year to you," Jian Qinxue said sadly. Then, she gently touched Emperor Ye's forehead with her jade-like finger and passed the scene of that year to Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi trembled all over. He covered his face and cried. After a long time, he stood up with his Guqin and stepped directly into the territory of the Yin-Yang 8 tribes. He stepped on the void, and the melody rose. The tragic and angry melody stirred the qi and blood of all living beings. It was earth-shattering. "Traitor! I'll kill you today. I swear I'm not human if I don't destroy the Forbidden Land." Emperor Yi roared to the sky. His black hair wrapped around the sky. His white hair was like snow. It shook the world. In October, it snowed heavily. Chapter 380. The people in Kuang's sect were shocked and they saw Emperor Yi rushing out of Kuang's sect. Emperor Yi wants to take revenge on the Yin-Yang 8 tribes. How can we just stand by and watch? Xia Ziluo hated the Yin-Yang 8 to the core. The Yin-Yang 8 was like a thorn stuck in her throat. She wanted to pull it out all the time. If it weren't for the Yin-Yang 8 and the remnant sect joining forces, this battle would have started long ago. Let's go. It's time to clean up the sect. Those who betrayed us will not have a good ending. Yan Yunbei soared into the sky and took the lead. Di Longtian left. He had completely matured now, and even had the potential to suppress Si Wuxia. He was extremely powerful. Xia Ziluo, Yi Linchen, Zi Tian, Gu Qingyu, and the others took the lead and rushed towards Emperor Yi. This battle was started by the younger generation, and the traitors were destined to be destroyed. The sky has changed. Di Shang woke up from his seclusion. His eyes were like stars as he drew his sword and walked out of the ancient massacre god, heading towards Kuang's sect. Shenong Qinyan was still flipping through ancient books, studying the history of the Savage Era. She found that the Savage Era ended mysteriously. Some of the human ancestors had disappeared as if they had gone to another dimension. Suddenly, Shenong Qinyan's brows twitched slightly. She turned to look at Emperor Domain and found that snow had covered the entire Emperor Domain in the blink of an eye. A tragic melody filled with anger and killing intent enveloped the heavenly river. It made her feel like she had returned to the Bangkok era, as if she saw the Zither Emperor playing the zither and causing the world to collapse. Zither immortal crimson demon physique. Shenong Qinyan was shocked. She had seen the Zither Emperor Mu Tiancan in the past and saw the human emperor's demeanor. She had never thought that she would be able to see another Zither immortal crimson demon physique after 1,000,000 years. Hua, Shenong Qinyan closed the iron scroll and instantly traveled 10,000 miles, appearing in front of the heroes, her immortal robe cold. Lu Ao Tian was overjoyed, he did not expect Shino Qinyan to appear at this moment. He quickly said, "Fairy, are you willing to lend us a hand and help the human race clean up the traitors from back then?" Emperor-level experts were not easy to deal with. They could not be defeated by the accumulation of numbers. Not many were as strong as Yi Qinghan. With the help of the 4 divine beasts, he could stand shoulder to shoulder with an emperor-level expert. With the help of the emperor corpse of the Tianwu Emperor, he could sweep through the battlefield. If Shenong Qinyan helped, their chances would naturally be much higher. Shenong Qinyan nodded slightly. She looked into the distance and saw a strand of white hair fluttering in the wind. She could not help but nod. However, before she could say anything, she suddenly turned to the east and said indifferently, "I'm afraid it won't be that easy. There is another Emperor realm expert in the Eastern Sea. Furthermore, his cultivation is very strong. His resentment seems very strong." What? Everyone was shocked. They didn't know that there was another martial emperor in the imperial region. Have you forgotten? Back then, Brother Yi lured the ghost emperor away, but he still hasn't appeared. Could it be the ghost emperor? Xia Qiue suddenly thought of the past, and her expression turned ugly. If it was the ghost emperor, he would definitely come for the Kuang sect. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird had caused the ghost emperor to suffer. This hatred was probably deeper than the sea. You don't have to worry too much. Go to the Yin-Yang 8 groups. Leave this ghost emperor to me. Although I can't kill him, delaying him for 3 to 5 months should not be a problem, Shenong Qinyan said indifferently. I will lead the army to support you, Lu Aotian said, a little worried. No need. You will only be a burden to me if you go. Shenong Qinyan said proudly. Back then, she had met many great emperors. Because of Shenong, she had mingled with great emperors since she was young. The benefits she had received were incomparable. Furthermore, since Shenong had sealed her, he would definitely have left her with many life-saving items. Swish, Shenong Qinyan stepped into the eastern wasteland ahead of time, heading straight for the Eastern Sea. She wanted to stop the Ghost Emperor outside the Imperial region. Outside the remnant sect, Di Shang stood proudly, facing off against Tianmu and Xing Luo. Daoist Tianmu, can you just stand by and do nothing this time? Di Shang asked in a low voice. Daoist Di Shang, if the Yin-Yang 8 groups are destroyed, how can my remnant sect stand? Tianmu and Xing Luo frowned and shouted. Sai, thank you for standing on the side of the endless universe in that battle back then. If it weren't for you, the endless universe might have already been destroyed. Why bother protecting a traitor and let your reputation be ruined? Di Shang advised. I stand on the side of the endless universe because I am a human and not an undead spirit. However, the world is at peace now, and the endless universe must maintain its balance. This is an unchanging truth. Nowadays, other than some secluded forces, most of the hidden forces have more or less offended the Kuang sect. You want me to stand by and do nothing? Are you trying to push my remnant sect to hell? Tianmu and Xing Luo questioned. I have heard a little about the hatred between Nangong Puwu and Yi Qinghan. I will not interfere. His disciple wants revenge, and he must face it. However, I can guarantee that my remnant sect and the Kuang sect will not go to war, as long as you are willing to give up on Nangong Puwu. What do you think? If I give up on the core disciple, the people of my remnant sect will be scattered. I cannot agree to this kind of encroachment, Tianmu and Xing Luo scolded coldly. Di Shang was helpless. He really did not want to go to war with Tianmu and Xing Luo. He had stood on the side of the human race in the past, and this kindness had to be repaid. If you want to help the Yin-Yang 8 tribes, I might only be able to stop you, but I can't stop the other disciples. However, your decision will only push the remnants of the sect into the position of traitors. I, the ancient god of massacre, will not stand by and do nothing to deal with traitors. The entire human race will not stand by and do nothing. Now that the path of divine martial arts no longer exists, do you want to push the path of remnant martial arts into a state of eternal damnation? Di Shang snorted coldly. Emperor Yi. Who is that? Tianmu and Xing Luo frowned. They did not know Emperor Yi. They had never even heard of him. He is Yi Qinghan's chief disciple. Emperor Yi has followed Qinghan since he was young. Di Shang was about to explain, but Tianmu and Xing Luo interrupted him. Ha ha ha, I admire Yi Qinghan's battle prowess, but can a disciple like him overturn the heavens? If Yi Qinghan went crazy, I would be afraid, but if his disciple went crazy, I would just treat it as a joke. Tianmu and Xing Luo laughed wildly. Emperor Yi has the zither immortal crimson demon body. Back in the day, she was even stronger than Yi Qinghan at the same level. You treat her as a joke, but I think you are the joke, Di Shang scolded disdainfully. Tianmu and Xing Luo's pupils shrank, and their bodies trembled. They were speechless. Yi Qinghan's battle prowess at the same level had already shocked them, but Emperor Yi's battle prowess was even stronger than his. Just how strong was Emperor Yi? The Yin-Yang Star Zone. This was the headquarters of the Yin-Yang 8 tribes. There were a total of 9 main planets and countless living beings. At this moment, the entire star zone was covered in snow. Yin-Yang Dongfei stood outside the palace, his brows tightly knitted. Is the heavens about to change again? Yin-Yang Dongfei's gaze was cold as he looked into the void. Gather the 8 tribes and prepare for battle. Swish, a figure flashed past, and the Yin-Yang 8 tribes all began to move. Everyone above the immortal realm on the main planets gathered. Yin-Yang Dongfei, come and die. A heavenly voice filled with dense killing intent resounded through the galaxy. A strand of zither music spread out. It was so powerful. Emperor Yi had white hair and red eyes. He carried a divine zither and was the first to arrive at the Yin-Yang Star Zone. He didn't care that Yin-Yang Dongfei was an emperor-level expert, nor did he care that the 8 tribes all had quasi-emperors. The zither immortal crimson demon body ignored numbers and only cared about individual battle prowess. Yin-Yang Dongfei frowned. He didn't know Emperor Yi. When the hidden noble families appeared, Emperor Yi was already on a deserted island in the Celestial Sea. A little girl who's still wet behind the ears dares to provoke the leader of my tribe. Die. Whoosh, an expert at the pinnacle of the divine martial realm charged into the void, wanting to make a contribution. He used all his battle prowess, and the Tao of Yin and Yang filled the universe. He was definitely a top-tier expert in the divine martial realm. He was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was 1,000 miles away from Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi opened his eyes, and a strand of wool filled the sky. With a gentle wave, the zither music turned into a blade that pierced through the void. That expert was still 1,000 miles away, but his body was suddenly torn apart. His blood stained the void, and he died tragically on the spot. Yin-Yang Dongfei, I must kill you today. You'd better obediently come to your death. I'll only give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't come up, I'll go down. When that time comes, I'll bury all the living beings on your planet. Emperor Yi approached the main planet and said coldly. Emperor Yi had feelings, but all of her heart and soul was devoted to Yi Qinghan. The Quang Zone only got half of it. She was heartless to the world. To her, killing people was just revenge. For Yi Qinghan, so what if she slaughtered all the living beings? Yin-Yang Dongfei sneered and waved his hand. A powerful boundary emperor rushed into the sky and attacked Emperor Yi. Whoosh! Emperor Yi grunted and played the zither again. One of the zither strings was pulled into a half-moon shape. He gently released it, and a strand of zither music turned into a divine arrow that pierced through the void. It was formless, and there was no ripple in the space. It directly pierced through the body of the boundary emperor. The zither music was vast and mighty, destroying all of his vitality. His corpse fell from the sky. The people from the Yin-Yang 8 sucked in a breath of cold air. This kind of shocking technique was actually done by a young woman. Yin Yang Dongfei saw Emperor Ye's physique. The divine zither was the zither of the human emperor, and the zither of the human emperor alone was enough to make him suffer. Therefore, he didn't go up. Instead, he sent people to attack and exhaust Emperor Ye's vital energy. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of figures rode the wind and broke through the waves from the various main planets. There were fake emperors, divine martial realm cultivators, and some of them were immortal sections. They directly attacked Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi was indifferent. He stood in the sky above the center of the 9 stars and sat cross-legged. His 10 fingers plucked the zither strings, and the yin and yang of heaven and earth reversed. The order changed, and the melody stirred the blood of the heroes. The flow of blood was no longer under his control, and his vital energy began to surge. The hundreds of experts were shocked. The closer they got to Emperor Yi, the stronger the aura of death became. Whoosh. The tragic melody was vast and mighty. Emperor Yi plucked the zither strings faster and faster. The hundreds of experts all lost control. Their blood vessels burst, and in the end, their bodies couldn't stop their blood from gushing out. Boom! Hundreds of experts self-destructed at the same time, illuminating the yin-yang galaxy. It was gorgeous and colorful. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.